Hello, 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 my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. Anybody there? Welcome to my garden. I'm Rosebud Reads, and this is my book garden. Actually, it's my basement, but we do with what we've got. And this is what I've got. So I hope that all of you are having a wonderful day. Did I click on the right one? Uh-oh. Hang on. Let me see. Usually someone is here by now. I think I might have clicked on the wrong one. Let me see. Nope, I'm on the right one. Oh, there you are, Chi Chi Kiki. Hi! I was just making sure. I just posted up the second one for Thursday, so I was making sure I didn't click on it. But welcome. How you doing? It's pretty hot out there recently, at least around me. So I hope you're staying nice and cool or having fun out in the sun safely. Good. I'm glad you're doing good. But yeah, welcome to the first stream of Peach Blossom Debt. It's going to be a bit of a longer stream than usual. I had time to kind of like pace out how I'd like to do it. So today it's going to be like 75 pages. And then I think we'll do like around 50 for the rest of the chapters. But I thought we'd do a little bit more since it's the first time. Also, since it's the first time, I brought back doing a little surprise box, and then I'll pop it in the background, and we'll gradually grow our collection as we go through books. And I thought that was kind of fun. So, because it's Peach Blossom Debt, I tried to find something like Peach Blossomy, but I got Cherry Blossom. It says Cherry Blossom Wings, Emma, Evening Cherry Blossom, Secret Forest Evening Cherry Blossom series. So I figured that's as close as we're going to get to Peach Blossom for a blind box. So I'm going to open it. If I can open it. I'm trying to think. Oh, logistics. I do not own Peach Blossom Debt. I do not claim anything from it. I don't make anything from doing this. I'm just doing it because I can, because I want to get these books out there, because I enjoy doing it. It's fun to read with all of you. So please don't come at me. It's written by Feng Gua Guo, translated by Jia. And the studio that owns it, at least right now, is Peach Flower House Publishing. So there's that. The only thing that I do own is the physical copy in front of me and my time. So that's it. Anyway, back to the opening. All right. I'm not gonna look in case I think I feel a card in there, so I don't wanna see what card it is. So the ones that it can be are these ones or these ones. Which, I mean, they're all pretty cute. I'm trying to think which one I would like. I'm kind of good with any of them. Alright, let's see. Well, that didn't open it at all. Hang on. Alright. Ta-da! Oh, that one's so cute! That one's really cute. I like that one a lot. Kind of reminds me of Shenqing Shu with the little green look. That's really cute. All right, I'm gonna go put that in the background. Then let's see. Pop that right there. Cute. Right, I'll put this over here. Okay. So I guess So I don't really have much news since last Tuesday. I guess we'll just kind of go for it. Get my book stand all up. There we go. I have people visiting from home, so Oh, I hope you have a good read. I just finished reading Peach Blossom not too long ago, but I will come and check how you are liking it. Oh, no worries, Chichi Kiki. Thanks for even just coming to say hi. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and feel free to comment when you pop back in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Peach Blossom Debt by Feng Gua Guo, which I'm probably saying incorrectly. All right, Chapter 1. Young Master, Chief Wang was watching me. He had 2, maybe 3 bumps on a face burned dark by the sun, and beads of sweat wobbled on the ends of his beard, ready to fall. Although it was now the beginning of autumn, the midday sun was still no less scorching than the hottest days of summer. Autumn cicadas chirped at the top of their lungs, while the ground could scorch one's feet. Young Master, our humble selves have been lying in ambush here for the entire morning on your orders. What exactly is our mission? Please, give us your instructions. I crushed a mosquito that was feeding on my cheek, wiped away a handful of damp sweat, flashed a knowing smile. Your young master is abducting a person who will pass through this road today. As soon as the horse carriage appears, mask yourselves and change. Make certain to take this person alive. Oh, I guess that was it for Chapter 1. Okay. Chapter 2. I was originally a carefree immortal without an official post in the heavenly court, one who had humbly received the nominal title of Guangshu Yuanjun. As my title was quite a mouthful to pronounce, the immortals in heaven all call me Song Yao Yunjun. Song Yao was my given name before I became an immortal. Even as a human in the mortal world, I was long established as a carefree person who lived in leisure. I spent the prime of my youth swaggering around town, a free spirit. The concept of Tao, or the Way, had been a world far removed from mine at the time, until the day Tai Shang Lao Jun lost his grip while opening his furnace and dropped one of its golden elixir pills into the mortal world below. This golden elixir just so happened to drop into a pot of soup in a marketplace noodle stall. The stall owner, thinking it was simply a bit of bird droppings that had fallen from the sky, stirred the pot with a big ladle and scooped up a portion of noodle soup in a bowl to serve. Ew. That unfortunate customer who ate the noodles. That was me. Even now, I marvel at the intensity of the ravenous hunger that blinded me then. Just like that, I gulped down a golden elixir the size of rat poop along with the soup. Again. Ew. And so, on that very night, when the golden crow descended in the west and the moon palace rose in its place, my essence, energy, and spirit merged as one. Auspicious clouds surged beneath my feet, and I ascended. Well, that was easy. From then on, I became an immortal. What, no tribulation lightning? Nothing? When the heavenly envoy led me to the Lingxiao palace to pay my respects to the Jade Emperor, the Jade Emperor said, "Immortals each have their own immortal root. Some cultivate it, some are born with it, and some chance upon it." There were no titles to we're going to start that over. There were no titles to bestow upon immortals who became immortal by chance. So the various gentlemen in the heavenly court all called me by my name, Immortal Song Yao. After enough time had passed for the land to turn into the sea and back many times over, the Jade Emperor graced me with his favor, bestowing upon me the title of Guang Shu Yuan Jun. My fellow immortals had long since grown accustomed to calling me Immortal Song Yao, and when they saw this face of mine, they could not bring themselves to say the words Guang Shu, so they all called me Song Yao Yuan Jun. As time elapsed, even I myself had forgotten about this title. One certain day, Donghua Daijun hosted a tea banquet and issued a genteel invitation to respectfully request Guangshu Yuanjun's presence. Holding the invitation in hand, I said to the sure bird delivering the message, "Who is Guangshu Yuanjun, and why did you mistakenly deliver this invitation to my Song Yao Yunjun's residence?" There was a common saying in the mortal world, to be as carefree as an immortal, and in the heavenly court, where immortal friends were aptly aplenty, time was as ephemeral as drifting clouds. Days passed, one after another, until a certain day when Tai Bai Xingjun came to this immortal lord's residence and said that he was here on the Jade Emperor's orders to relay a secret decree to me. In a spot in the back garden of my residence where floating clouds drifted, Tai Bai Xingjun told me that Tianshu Xingjun and Nanming Daijun had been declared guilty of engaging in an illicit affair. The Jade Emperor had already severed their immortal roots at the immortal execution terrace and banished them down into the mortal world. So wait, they can't have relationships? Really? Are they supposed to be like above that? But aren't. Well, we'll find out what's up. Sorry. In a spot in the back garden of my residence, no, roots, and such a rare incident had been unheard of for thousands upon thousands of years. So this immortal lord naturally had to do a double take first before asking the most important question. It's an illicit affair between Tianshu Xingjun and Nanming Daijun, not them both seducing the celestial maidens? Jin Xing said nothing. This immortal lord smiled awkwardly. So they are what the mortal world calls the cut sleeves. This was common and in itself nothing rare. What's unusual was that it actually turned out to be Tianshu Xingjun and Nanming Daijun. Tisk tisk. Nanming Daijun always carried himself with an air of solemn aloofness, far removed from the masses, while Tianshu Xingjun could be described as refined and untainted by worldly affairs. Both gentlemen were exalted lords who had never thought much of an immortal like me who ascended by pure luck. So, how could such a thing happen? That said, however, they were quite the perfect match when put together. Still, we cannot close the books on the sins of both lords just yet. Jing. Alright, I'm back. I hope this is not going to be the trend tonight. The Jade Emperor is merciful, and he has given them a chance to atone by sending them to the mortal world to undergo a lifetime of love trials. If they can see through their inner demons and realize the errors of their ways, they may once again cultivate to immortality and return to the heavenly court. For that reason, the Jade Emperor has issued a decree to ask that you, Guangshu Yuanjun, make a trip to the mortal world too. I was astounded. Why? Jingxing stroked his beard and smiled. The Jade Emperor thought about it and decided that the task of setting up the trials to punish them in the mortal world would be best handed to you. Now I understood. This immortal lord had some past grudges with Nanming Daijun and Tianshu Xingjun. An old man Jade Emperor must have liked me for this. I furrowed my brows and sighed. I have been acquainted with both lords for thousands of years. How could I have the heart to set trials as their punishments? Jingxing said, "The Jade Emperor shared with me that once you return to the heavenly court after your descent to enlighten your fellow immortals in the mortal world, he will personally draw up a decree and bestow upon you the title of Guangshu Tianjun in recognition of your contribution." Then he stroked his beard again and smiled. Tianshu and Nan Ming will start as immortals with no official post when they return to the heavenly court. They will still need Tianjun to guide and enlighten them then. The Jade Emperor's terms were pretty good. Descend to the mortal world once, and this immortal lord could earn the title and rank of an exalted lord. As they said, to be an immortal was to discard all desires and worries from one's mind and let nature take its course. Okay, so that's why they were upset about it. So rising from a superficial rank to a meaningful one once in a while could be considered a cause for rejoicing. I sighed again. Very well. To be subjected to a lifetime of suffering for love, yet enlightened in the supreme art of cultivation. As their fellow immortal, I have no choice but to endure my heartache and reluctantly oblige. 6 or 7 days later, the Jade Emperor sent Mingui Xingjun to instruct me on what I must do upon my descent. When the Jade Emperor banished the two lords to the mortal world, he prepared a body there for me. The role I was going to play was that of the insurmountable mountain straddling Nanming and Tianshu's road to love, the mother of all rods wrecking the lovebirds' relationship. In this life, Nanming Daijun was a man of great valor, while Tianshu Xingjun was a delicate, refined young master. Yu Lao, the deity of marriage and love, ran a thread of fate as thick as a finger between their names and secured it with a huge, implicably tight knot. Deeply in love since their youth, both had mutually exchanged a solemn pledge of everlasting love until the end of time. This immortal lord was responsible for getting in their way. When they trade messages, I intercept, and when they reunite, I tear them apart. They would not see each other in life, nor would they be together in death. I mulled over this lousy script in my heart, and no matter how I looked at it, I felt like I was the one who should have been sent to the immortal execution terrace. So wait, did they fast forward the Earth? Or did they just rewrite memories and were like, you two have loved each other since childhood. Here's your backstory set in stone, and we're just gonna toss you down into a random family. I guess we may find out. Several more days passed, and the time of my descent arrived. My fellow immortals saw me off to the southern heavenly gate. Outside the gate, I took Heng Wen Qingjun's hand. I'll be back in a few days. Do save some of the residence's exquisite wine for me. Heng Wen Qing Jun's eyes curved into a smile. Don't worry. I'll be sure to leave some for your homecoming feast. He patted my shoulder and came closer. Always stay true to the core of your very essence and hold steadfast to the integrity inherent to you as an immortal. You must never relinquish your immortal roots while sleeping in the same bed as Tianshu Qingjun every night. What? I blurted, dumbfounded. The smile on Hengwen Qingjun's refined features betrayed the rotten nature beneath. Still playing dumb? Everyone in heaven knows that the son of a vassal prince you are about to become has to pretend to take a fancy to Tianshu Qing Chiang Jun to punish him so that he'd have no time to even pine for his love. The Jade Emperor has ordered you to strand him in your residence, keeping by his side every day and sharing his bed every night. The Jade Emperor duped me! Mingwei Xingjun didn't say a word of this to me at all. I made to leave, but Heng Wen intercepted me with a raised sleeve. What are you doing? I sidestepped him. To look for the Jade Emperor. I'm not doing this anymore. That geezer Jade Emperor duped me into sleeping with Tian Shu. Heng Wen responded with glee at my misfortune. At this stage, it's too late for you to back out. The decision is already out of your hands. A gust of strong wind struck me, and this immortal lord lost my footing, tumbling head first off the heavenly gate. Oh, so dignified. He's like, hold up, what? Okay. Chapter 3. On the second day of the 5th month in the year of the fire rat, this immortal lord rode down Shangchuan City on an auspicious cloud. A light breeze rose, and the passerby raised their heads for a look, then shrank back into their shells and dashed off, while street vendors scrambled to pack their wares. This immortal lord heard a distant shout. The sky is overcast. It's gonna rain. Quick, pack up and hurry home. Peasants are obtuse. This immortal lord would do well not to quibble with the likes of them. Mingwei Xingjun led me until I was floating over the manor of the vassal prince of Ningping of the Eastern Commandery. He pointed at a spot in the back garden of the prince's manor and said, "This is your mortal body." There was a reclining chair in the back garden where two young children had surrounded and now clambered over a prone form. This motionless one was Li Siming, the youngest young master of the vassal prince, and this immortal lord's to-be self. I sized him up carefully. His gaze was vacant, his expression blank and wooden. The top of his head was even adorned with flowers and plants, courtesy of the two young children. This person seems to be a dimwit. Mingwei Xingjun gave a dry laugh. Ahem. This mortal flesh was specially prepared for you. It's naturally soulless before you, so take possession of it and can presently only eat, drink, urinate, and defecate. The time has come. Yuan Jun, enter the body. Post haste, if you please. Without waiting for this immortal lord to say another word, he started reciting the incantation. With a flick of his finger, a golden light materialized within my vision, and soon the incantation had propelled me into the garden. A sense of familiarity from thousands of years ago spread throughout my body. Thus concluded this immortal lord's successful possession of the body. After being a weightless immortal for thousands of years, it all came rushing back. The sensation of my feet on solid ground, the familiar weight of my limbs, the mess of sensations in my chest, the worldly sounds flooding my ears, they were unexpectedly reassuringly endearing. Something squirming and heavy clambered on my body. I opened my eyes, and the first thing that greeted me was a tiny face covered in smudges. A pair of round eyes swiveled in their sockets, and a mouth missing two teeth bared in a highly irritating smile. Dirty little paws raised a handful of black mud towards my mouth. He, little uncle, be a dear and eat this. Be a dear and eat this. I smiled kindly and raised a hand to pat his head. Sweetheart, get down from your little uncle now and go back to your parents. Those round eyes blinked twice, and he cocked his little head to look at me. I turned aside and picked up another child poised to scramble up my knees to stick flowers on this immortal lord's head. Sitting upright and walking properly are the fundamentals of human conduct. Did your tutor not teach you this? Another pair of round eyes stared right back at me. This child was brighter than the one earlier. He puckered his mouth and with a wah burst out bawling, Mother! 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 Grandfather! Little Uncle Scary! He created such a din that his cries drew the maid servants, who yelled for servants, who in turn called for the steward and the wet nurses, who then helped the madams out of their chambers. Two loyal servants, both strong men, puffed up with the imposing air of Wusong, headed up the mountain to fight a tiger, pluck the two young little masters from my side. I smiled genially at both of them, and both men retreated to the walkway with a terrified look. Head after head peeked out from some distance away, looking at this immortal lord like they had seen a ghost. The sheer ignorance it took not to recognize a real immortal. This immortal lord would not quibble with the likes of them either. Several armed guards crowded around an approaching man. He was adorned in a reddish-purple robe embroidered with a fierce tiger motif. He had graying temples, a beard, a broad forehead, a square jaw, and worn, weathered features. Needless to say, this was the vassal prince of the Eastern Commandery in the flesh. This immortal lord would have to play the part of his son for quite some time, so I had to establish some rapport during our first meeting. I approached slowly, my hands lowered as I adopted a humble stance and greeted him with the utmost respect. Father. A strange light glinted in the Prince of the Eastern Commandery's tiger-like stare as he gazed at this immortal lord. One could only imagine how rife with emotion he was now that his dimwit son was suddenly lucid. His excitement was so palpable that his face was now deathly pale and he was trembling uncontrollably. Then those black eyes rolled up and he passed out. Thus, I successfully concluded my transformation into Li Siming. The folks of the Prince of the Eastern Commandery's manor trembled at the mere sight of me for the entire day. It was on the day after the Prince of the Eastern Commandery woke up that he invited a Taoist priest to invoke a great deity before me. Holding a sword made of peachwood, the priest danced for a bit, then chanted incoherently for another bit. I greatly enjoyed the show he put on, as though he really had summoned the deity into his body. Just as the performance reached a climactic high, the priest's eyes suddenly blue-eyed to gawk at this immortal lord. He fell to his knees, kowtowing so hard that we heard the thuds. This humble Taoist respectfully welcomes the high immortal. That startled me. I had not concerned myself with mortal affairs for many years now, given that there had been no newly ascended immortal in the heavenly court of late, I thought that the art of Taoism had fallen into decline. Never did I expect that there to be someone in the streets who had cultivated with such proficiency that he could tell this immortal lord's real identity at a glance. The priest continued to kowtow in trepidation. This humble Taoist cultivation is too shallow to recognize Bai Hu Xing Jun's veritable self at a glance. Please forgive me for my offense. Bai Hu Xing Jun, the white tiger star? There were 72 lunar mansions and 8 star lords in the heavenly court. Since when did a tiger come to be an exalted lord? The heavenly court did indeed have a few white tigers, all of which were raised to guard the heavenly gates, but since when did one come to be called a lord in the palace itself? The priest turned on his knees to kowtow to the Prince of the Eastern Commandery. Congratulations, your lordship! This humble Taoist shall boldly venture to divulge heaven's secret. The little young master is an incarnation of Bai Hu Xing Jun of the heavenly realm. Your lordship is a man of great fortune, and this is a blessing from heaven for the immortal affinity forged. The Prince of the Eastern Commandery looked at me, still trembling a little. Master Priest, are you telling me the truth? This son of mine has been dull and ignorant of the ways of the world since he was a child, but suddenly he's lucid and literate. This is truly... The priest rose. Your lordship, the little young master is an immortal incarnate. Naturally, he differs from the common person. As the ancients say, a crouching tiger is like a boulder. Xing Jun has been lying dormant for several years, and the common people, being ordinary, could not have known. The Prince of the Eastern Commandery was so very pleased with this explanation, that his son was the tiger star who had descended to their mortal world, that he even believed the nonsense like his youngest was a dimwit because the tiger star had been sleeping for a while. I mean, he's kind of right about that, considering they made this body for Yuan Jun. So it's like you're kind of right, but no. That he even believed nonsense like his... he looked again at this immortal lord, no longer trembling, but with a face radiant with happiness. But, Master Priest, if what you say is true, and this son of mine has been in a dormant state for so many years, why has he suddenly woken up? I plucked a teacup from the table and moistened my throat. With an enigmatic pose, one hand behind his back and the other stroking his beard, the priest said, "The secrets of heaven cannot be divulged." What a load of rubbish. He said, "The secrets of heaven cannot be divulged." What a load of rubbish. From then on, this immortal lord lived very comfortably in the Prince of the Eastern Commandery's manor. Prince wasted no time telling the entire household that his youngest son, Siming, was a tiger star. I ended up being secretly gawked at for several days. I gradually became familiar with the people in the prince's manor. When I wandered around the prince's manor, surveying the place, servants would pretend to pass by and attempt to strike up a conversation with their little young master. The Prince of the Eastern Commandery had ill luck with his wives. He successfully married 10 or so wives and concubines, all of whom he jinxed to death. Including Li Siming, this immortal lord's now mortal flesh, he had a total of 3 sons. His eldest son, Shi Xian, and his second son, Si Yuan, often vied with one another, both overtly and covertly, to be his heir. After talk of the Tiger Star spread, both elder siblings sought out the novelty that was their little brother. They went to extra lengths, preparing a feast with wine in the garden of a assigned compound. It was here that we admired the scenery and chatted the night away. It had to be known that I, Song Yao Yuan Jun, spent my several thousand years roaming all over heaven, drinking tea, sampling wine, playing chess, and expounding the Tao. The realm of immortals, no one save Hengwen Qingjun could outtalk me. I'd just begun to touch on the topic when, before I knew it, it was morning. In contrast, my two elder brothers slept the entire ensuing day, further cementing the notion that this immortal lord was indeed the Tiger Star. Several days later, I more or less got a grasp on Nanming Daijun and Tianshu Xingjun's current circumstances through the marketplace, tea houses, and Prince's Manor. Mengui Xingjun once told me that Nanming Daijun's name in this life was Shan Shang Ling, while Tianshu Xingjun's reincarnation was called Mu Ryo Ryu Yan. It was only after several days of inquiries that I learned both were fairly renowned in the secular world, especially Tianshu Xingjun, who is really one trouble magnet, which came as a surprise to this immortal lord. Plastered all over the walls in every alley in the city were arrest warrants for Mu Ru Yan, along with a large half-body portrait. So much for being upright gentlemen. It was said that the Shan and Mu clans had been high-ranking officials of the imperial court for generations. Both clans had known each other just as long, and their friendship ran deep. More than a decade ago, Nanming Daijun's parental grandfather had offended the emperor. The entire clan was executed. The Mu clan secretly rescued Shan Shang Ling and brought him into their residence, where they had raised him to adulthood. Nanming Daijun was an imposing figure in the heavenly court, and even when he was banished to the mortal world, he was not a person who could suffer humiliation in silence. These were turbulent times, when vassal princes in various lands possessed massive military force, whittling imperial power down to almost nothing. Okay, so we're gonna, I guess, get a little bit of the Golden Terrace and a little bit of the end of Imperial Uncle. Interesting. Shan Shangling threw in his lot with the vassal prince of the southern commandery. Just a month before, he had incited the prince of the southern commandery to openly stage a revolt with the intent to usurp the throne. The emperor flew into a rage when investigations revealed it was the Mu clan who had saved the life of this scourge. He had the entire clan sentenced to death. Of course, the Jade Emperor could not let Tianshu Xingjun fumble into an execution and have it all end there. So the servants of the Mu clan risked their own necks to protect their little young master, Mu Ruo Yan, as he fled for his life. He was presently in hiding, drifting through the world at large. You can't have it end too early, right? That wouldn't serve the purpose of punishment at all. Heaven forbid they love each other. The Mu Ru Yan in the wanted poster had a pointed face and thin eyebrows. It was extremely unlikable, and this mortal lord sighed a few times, gazing at that portrait. While in the heavenly court, Tian Shu Xing Jun, dressed in white and wore a jade hairpin, looking charmingly refined and indifferent. Such was his aura, untarnished and ethereal. Kind of sounds like Shen Qing Shu or Chu Anning almost. It was plain abhorrent of the Jade Emperor to arrange such a body for him after banishing him to the mortal world. After all, this immortal lord still had a love script to enact, on the orders of the Jade Emperor himself, no less. At least leave him a fraction of the exalted lord's looks. Could I bring myself to utter sweet nothings to a face like this when I get my hands on him? It's like, at least make him pretty for me. Like, come on, man. You're asking me a favor. At night, I adjusted my key and regulated my breathing. I was hoping to shift my primordial spirit back to the heavenly court and negotiate my lot with the Jade Emperor, but I could not. It was as if my spirit had been nailed to this body. Only then did I remember the words of Mingwei Xingjun, that old scoundrel, telling me that my immortal skills would be barred from me on my descent, save for at the most critical junctures. He must have kept the truth from me, knowing I would quit had I known. Left with no other options, I spent several idle months in the manor, drinking tea and sleeping the days away. The Prince of the Eastern Commandery was unusually affectionate to this suddenly lucid tiger star son of his, and he specifically allocated a whole courtyard for me to live in. Oh, specially allocated a whole courtyard for me to live in. I often drank wine and played chess with both of my elder brothers. We even went to the entertainment quarters together to listen to the songs there. Our relationship improved with each passing day. See, this is in his point of view, so part of me, like just thinking back to how he was saying both of his older brothers are vying for the heir position, like part of me is like, so are they going to try to implicate him in this sense, or are they like, whoo, can't mess with an immortal? So I'm going to be interested to see in that regard um, if their relationship is actually improving or not. 3 months later, Mingwei Xingjun finally returned to the mortal world. He released this immortal lord from Li Siming's body in the middle of the night and told me, midair above the prince's manor, that the show was about to start. Tianshu Xingjun, having recuperated from his wounds whilst in hiding, had been spirited away by his attendants to his lover's side in the southern commandery. The little young master of the Prince of the Eastern Commandery, Li Siming, was to come charging at this time and abduct Mu Ruo Yan back to the manor. On the day after tomorrow, before noon, Mu Ruo Yan's horse carriage would pass the foot of the mountain outside Shangchuan City. The prince of the southern commandery assembled his army and proclaimed himself emperor to boot. The prince of the eastern commandery grew restless too. The two territories bordered each other. Armed conflicts would be inevitable. These days, the prince of the eastern commandery and his eldest son inspected the military camps at the border garrison, under the jurisdiction of the commandery. The second son, Si Yuan, remained in the prince's manor as its administrator, while simultaneously guiding his younger brother, this immortal lord, through internal affairs. First morning, I claimed to have received a tip-off from the Eastern Commandery spies and asked for 20 to 30 sturdy bodyguards to lie in ambush by the mountain path outside the city. Who would have known we would not even catch a glimpse of the carriage, even after waiting from morning to noon? The mountain path was completely empty. No carriages, no passerby, not even a wild hare. Such a scenario was an impossibility. Tian Shu's passage through this road was personally arranged by Mingwei Xingjun, and it was all recorded in his book. Tian Shu Xingjun was now a mere mortal, unable to escape the fate heaven had decreed for him. Beside, old man Meng Gui had clearly told this immortal lord it would happen in the morning. So why had he yet to appear at noon? Probably because he's messing with you, dude. Dozens of bodyguards' clothes were drenched in sweat. Li Siming's stomach growled. His mortal lord was burning with hunger. Should I go somewhere secluded on the pretext of relieving myself and nab a local earth deity to make inquiries? Just as I was considering it, a breeze passed my ear. Tianshu Xingjun's carriage has run into bandits on the road 1 kilometer from here. He's already been abducted back to their mountain stronghold. Go now. My fury blazed when I heard this voice. Ming Gui, that old geezer, is he playing me? The most pressing matter at present was to get Tian Shu back in my hands. Thus I summoned Chief Wang before me. Is there a bandit stronghold in this mountain? To report to this young master, Chief Wang answered, there are indeed 1 or 2 gangs of vermin hiding on the mountain. I waved his sleeve. Have our brothers fall into rank. We'll head up the mountain to round up that gang of vermin. The bodyguards from the Prince of the Eastern Commandery Manor were all well trained. Although Chief Wang looked uncertain, he said nothing further and gave the order. The bodyguards immediately rose from the thick undergrowth of grass and charged up the mountain. It might be called a mountain, but in truth it could only be considered a hillock. It did not even have a proper name, although the folks from Shuang Shuan all called it the Great Slope. A trail, worn down by woodcutters, meandered up the sides of the hillock. His mortal lord was stealthily leading my bodyguards up the mountain, having made it halfway when an ominous chill gusted past, and 2 men sprang from the woods. Who goes there calling on our Haifeng stronghold? These 2 vermin were disheveled and shabbily dressed. Clearly, this no-cost business was not going well for them. Before they could even stand firm on their feet and announce their names, the bodyguards had swarmed and knocked them to the ground. They trussed the men up into 2 bundles and discarded them by the side of the road before continuing their upward charge. There was only a dilapidated mountain deity temple at the top, with a banner raised before the temple inscribed with 2 words as large as the rim of a bowl. Hai Fang Stronghold. Inside the temple were only about 10 to 20 shabbily dressed bandits and a burly man, the self-proclaimed bandit chief. The bodyguards charged into the mountain deity temple, and in less than an hour all the bandits were tied up on the ground. I personally conducted a careful search of the mountain deity temple, but did not catch any sign or sight of Tian Shu. Uncaring of which, I dragged forward one of the bandits and asked, where did you lock up the man in the carriage you robbed today? I'll let all of you go once I find him. The bandit chief and his pack of minions pricked up their ears at the demand and craned their necks up. That bandit I was interrogating immediately grinned. So you're looking for that invalid? The mountain deity statue is hollow, and the incense burner is a switch. Turn it to the left to open a secret door. The man you want is inside. One bandit shifted and said in a small voice, we only managed to rob one today in the last 7 days or so, or last 10 days. We thought it'd be a big haul given the horse and carriages and even the escorts, but there was only an invalid inside, and it earned us nothing but misfortune. This immortal lord played deaf to his murmurings. I turned the mechanism, circled behind the mountain deity statue, and strode through the secret door. Within the chamber, a few vaguely human shapes were half lying in the pitch darkness, likely having been drugged by the mountain bandits. I silently recited the incantation to cite immortals. In the darkness, I saw a faint layer of silvery light wholly envelop a person. Clear and frosty. That was Tianshu Xingjun's immortal glow. No doubt this person was Mu Ruoyan. I was dying to know what Tianshu Xingjun looked like now. I picked him up and carried him out of the earthen statue and turned him over for a look. His face was filthy with mud, and his hair was in a disheveled mess. Could not tell what he looked like other than that he was unkempt. With no other choice, I shouted for Chief Wang, "Tie up the rest of them and find a stretcher for this man. Bring him back to the prince's manor." Before leaving, however, I untied the bandits and begged their pardon for the offense. This immortal lord has always been merciful. In such turbulent times, it was not easy making a living out of any trade. So it was without a hitch that this immortal lord brought Tian Shu Xingjun back to the Prince of the Eastern Commandery's manor. But how did I go from abducting this person to rescuing him instead? I mean, doesn't hurt to get on his good side, I guess? Although he probably is going to misunderstood and think you bought him. I told Li Siming that the tip-off had made these people out to be Southern Commandery spies, but an investigation turned up nothing. Li Siming was up to his neck in the Prince Manor's affairs, see Yuan. I was like, wait, we're Li Siming. And so Tian Shu was justifiably carried into the third master's exclusive courtyard. He said, "I'll leave this matter to you, third brother. Investigate as you deem fit." Per Mingwei Xingjun's arrangement, once Mu Ruoyan woke up, this immortal lord would claim to have taken a liking to him. Looking at this face on the stretcher in the courtyard, I sighed twice, then instructed the attendants to give him a thorough wash from head to toe. Hang on, I'm gonna sneeze. When I entered my bedchamber and bolted the door, there was a flash of red light, and then Mingwei Xingjun was standing beside the table, his old face crinkled in laughter as he cupped his hands in greeting. Song Yao Yuan Jun, congratulations on successfully concluding your first mission. I pulled a glum face. Xingjun, you played me. You clearly said to abduct him on the mountain road in the morning. How did it go from that to rescuing him from a mountain stronghold? Mingwei Xingjun said with a dry laugh, I might have simplified it when I wrote it down. It won't affect the overall situation. Not at all. He then fished out the Book of Fate and flipped to a particular page. He handed it to me for a look, and shockingly enough, written in the book were the words, Mu Ruoyan is abducted from the mountain road at the morning hour of Chen. Li Siming receives Mu Ruoyan. So that's how it was. This lazy, corner-cutting old man. His writing sure is spot on. Seeing this immortal lord's hostile look, Mingwei Xingjun tucked the Book of Fate back into his sleeve and put on an earnest expression. Everything occurs on its own unique variables, and so does fate. With the way this event has played out, Tian Shu now owes you a favor, and this is in itself a good thing. Oh, I said, unmoved. Mingwei Xingjun tucked his hands into his sleeves. You are acting on the Jade Emperor's order to let Tian Shu's reincarnation suffer a lifetime of love trials. To a man genuinely and deeply in love, there is no greater sorrow in the world than a broken heart. Love hurts. Without the love, where could the hurt come from? A shudder ran through my heart. Are you telling me to feign affection and coax Tian Shu into falling for me? Well, that's one way of doing it, Mingwei Xingjun replied meaningfully. Whether it is to ride the clouds or to ride the winds, the decision is up to you, Yuan Jun. My face twitched. That this immortal lord bore a grudge against Tian Shu Xingjun was public knowledge among the immortals. Surely the Jade Emperor must have thought I would be ruthless. It did not matter whether Tian Shu Xingjun was determined to love only Nan Ming Daijun, or if he was coaxed into falling for Li Siming. His immortal lord only needed to be concerned with unleashing every trick up my sleeve, however unconscionable it might be. After Mingwei Xingjun left, I paced a few times in my chamber. Then I pulled the door open and walked out. A maidservant came to report that the man was now cleaned and settled in an empty side chamber. I strolled to the chamber door and pushed it open. Making my way over to the bed, I froze for a moment. The man lying on the bed was the Tian Shu Xingjun that this mortal lord knew in the heavenly court. His facial features were exactly the same, except that his complexion was sallow on top of the paleness. He was a tad thinner and looked unwell. Although his portrait had made me apprehensive, this sight immediately felt like a lucky break. The Jade Emperor might be abhorrent, but he had not been excessively so in this respect. Like, well, at least he's pretty. His pitch black hair was still a little damp as it fanned over his shoulders and across the pillow. To the side of this pillow, someone had set a piece of jade. I picked it up for a look. It was smooth and lustrous, as though someone had caressed it often. Could this be a token of love from Nanming Daijun? Tian Shu Xingjun. From now on, this immortal lord has a job to do, so don't blame me. I, Song Yao Yuanjun, am not a person who would abuse the power of my office to avenge a private grudge. This is what the Jade Emperor has decreed. I don't have a choice. Even if it's not this immortal lord, the Jade Emperor will still send another immortal down. You are meant to suffer for all of this lifetime. I set the ink black jade back beside the pillow. That's kind of cool. Ink black jade. I'm kind of curious, like, what that actually, like, I know it's black jade, but is it like onyx? Is it clear? No. The breathing of the person on the bed shifted slightly and his eyelids fluttered. I braced myself, ready in my position by the bed. His clear gaze, laced with a hint of doubt, landed upon this immortal lord's face. I smiled suavely at this refined face I had known for thousands of years. Young Master Mu, are you awake now? His perplexed expression underwent a slight change, and his pallid face turned a few shades paler. I tugged at the corners of my mouth, widening my smile even more. This humble one is Li Siming. My father is the prince of the Eastern Commandery, Li Jutang. I've admired you for a long time. I discovered by chance that you were passing through this small commandery, so I'd like to extend a special invitation for you to stay in my humble abode. It was on Mingwei Xingjun's command that I confessed my feelings to Tian Shu upon waking. We call this dealing him a heavy blow before he could regain his bearings. Besides, I would have to do this sooner or later. So I steeled myself, going for broke, as I curbed my suave smile and replaced it with a vivacious one. Several years ago, I dreamed an immortal had a one-night heist with me. It was only when I saw young Master Mu today that I realized the immortal in my dream that night is right before me. Grabbed hold of Mu Ryu Yan's wrist, which was so bony it jutted uncomfortably against my hand. Ru Yan, I'm going to keep you by my side for life, never to let you go, ever. Okay, so he's trying to play a yonder, but he's like, gotta do it, dude. Alright, so that's the end of that chapter. Actually, I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. Hang on. Whoop. I just gotta say, I feel like I am doing pretty well with all of these names right now. So I'm gonna give myself a little clap. Oh, hi, Momar's Rover. Hi, can't stay, but I thought I'd drop by. Thank you for dropping by. I'm happy you're here, and I hope you enjoy listening later. It's been pretty interesting so far. Lots of names. But, yeah, no, I'm interested to see how this goes. I hope you've been well. Thank you for popping in. Chapter 4. It was now dusk. As the sun set, dazzling golden red rays broke through the window. Given that it was the end of summer and the beginning of autumn, the evening breeze was cool, with a lingering touch of lotus scent from the small pond. Such was the charm of the scene. Mu Ruyan fixed his eyes on me, his expression a basin of rippling clear water that now stilled like a mirror. As expected, the reincarnation of Tian Shu was still as composed as he had been in the heavenly court, carrying himself with an air of aloofness. His heart may have been in turmoil, but he kept up appearances and committed to his role as an invalid. Mu Ruyan spoke, his voice mild and gentle. His first words surprised me. Is young Master Li the legendary little lord of the Eastern Commandery, the incarnation of a Star Lord of whom they speak? Rumors sure spread fast. I released Tian Shu's hand and flashed a smile. The Tiger Star's descent to the mortal world is merely the nonsense of a charlatan. How could there be such a rare mythical phenomenon in this world? The real reincarnation of a Star Lord is the one sitting on the bed, you, exalted Lord, who dragged this immortal Lord into this drudgery of a job with you. Mu Ruyan stood up from the bed. This humble one heard of it by chance while passing a rural inn, he smiled. Please pardon me if I have offended you in any way, young Master Li. I moved closer to Mu Ruyan and looked down into his eyes. You're already mine now. There's no need for such politeness between us. Tianshu Xingjun, please brace yourself while you hear these harsh and sudden words. Mu Ruyan's face sallowed further. The refreshing evening breeze made its way into the chamber, sending the thin fabric of his single robe fluttering. It looked ready to blow him over. Still that mild, courteous smile remained on his face. He maintained his refined bearing. Sighing internally, this immortal lord watched his pale lips part and close as he said to me, It's this humble one's privilege to set foot within the compound of the Prince of the Eastern Commandery's manor today. Presumably, you must have long known my whereabouts for my entire journey. I'm eternally grateful to you for saving my life on the mountain outside the city. I interrupted him. Don't give me the spiel like you are unable to repay my kindness. You will be with me for a long time to come. You have all the time in the world to repay me any way you please. Mu Ruyan's sallow complexion blanched even further. He covered his mouth with his sleeve and coughed a few times. With a forced, bitter smile, he said, An honest man does not speak in riddles, so I shall be frank. I, Mu Ruoyan, am a wanted fugitive. In bringing me to the Prince of Eastern Commandery's manor, young Master Li must have your own arrangement. This humble one, however, is a man at the end of his rope, and my life and death are at the mercy of heaven. I'm not deserving of the great effort you have expanded thus. Such was the bitterness in his tone. Having stared at this figure faltering on the verge of collapse for so long, the mortal lord simply had to reach out to support him. Mu Ruo Yan, unable to step back in time, stiffened. Tch, this immortal lord was just buttering you up. It's not like I'd really do anything to you. But I had to play the role of this villainous character to the hilt. Partially supporting and partially hugging Tian Shu, I said, Ruo Yan, you are an intelligent man, so I won't keep the truth from you. When I captured you, I had originally meant to escort you back to the capital. But I fell in love with you at first sight and couldn't bear to do so. After thinking about it, I decided to keep you in the manor. On one hand, I could be close to you all the time. On the other hand, I brushed away a lock of his hair which had been hanging on his shoulder and gave a sinister smile. That General Shan of yours is truly a great man of untrammeled spirit. Be wonderful if I could make his acquaintance through you. Without waiting to see Tian Shu's expression, I flicked my sleeves, turned around, and laughed out loud. You must be tired. Take a nap. When the moon is shining clear and bright, this young master shall be back to spend the night. I think he's having a little bit of fun playing the melodramatic villain right now. I strode out of the chamber. The evening sun was half submerged in the horizon, and the rosy clouds were brilliant. I instructed the young maidservant, bring some soup and tea snacks to young Master Yan. I swiftly returned to the bedchamber and downed 2 cups of tea. I touched my right arm, the one I had wrapped around Tian Shu. A strange, indescribable feeling came upon me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little head poking out from the bottom of the doorframe, peeking at me. It grinned at me with 2 missing teeth. It was this immortal lord's little nephew, Li Xian, son, Li Jinning. The mere sight of this trickster of a child was cause for a headache for everyone in the prince's manor. However, this immortal lord had scared him and Li Xiyuan's son, Jin Shun, in the courtyard from the get-go. Subsequently, I was established as the Tiger Star incarnate. So every time he saw me strolling through the prince's manor, Jin Shu would run from me, only daring to poke half a head out from his pillars and corners. This one, however, would diligently follow me. At first, following was all he did. Then the little sneak started to throw pebbles at my turned back. What a little punk. There had been a day where I was sitting in a pavilion in the back garden when he rolled out from the undergrowth of grass and pounced on my knees. With round eyes, he very solemnly asked, Little uncle, they all say you're a white tiger spirit. Is that a lie? White tiger star, not white tiger spirit, I had clarified. It was one thing for this immortal lord to have become a tiger star. What immortal dignity would I have left if I was downgraded to a tiger spirit instead? Li Jinning puffed out his cheeks. Saying that little uncle is a white tiger spirit must be a lie. Tiger's face is round. Little uncle's face isn't round. Little uncle isn't a tiger. Tears brimmed in my eyes. How insightful was this child? To think that from top to bottom, no one in this manner compared to a child 7 or 8 years of age. I reached out to pet Jinning's head. He immediately flashed his two missing upper teeth and scrambled up my knee. Little uncle, you're not a tiger spirit, but can you tell stories of tiger spirits? I smiled benevolently. Yes, not just tiger spirits. Your little uncle can tell you stories of fox spirits, black bear spirits, spider spirits, and river deer spirits. Can I hear some of those stories? That sounds fun. Li Jinning clutched at the front of my clothes. Black bear spirit! I want to hear about the black bear spirit! This immortal lord cleared my throat and began the story. By the halfway mark, Li Jinning was already all sprawled on me, sleeping soundly. His saliva drooled all over my robe. Wonder if this dude had siblings or like cousins, because he's pretty good at taking care of children so far. He seems to enjoy children. Left with no choice, I carried him back to the inner courtyard and handed him over to the wet nurse. From then on, Li Jinning glued himself to me, making his way to my courtyard once or twice daily. Presently, upon realizing I'd spotted him, Jinning immediately covered the distance between me and the threshold of the door. He clambered up this immortal lord's knees. Little uncle, I want to eat grilled bird eggs. My head ached. There's no grilled bird eggs here. Go back and ask your mother for them. Have the kitchen grill quails for you. Jinning shook his head. Not grilled quail. There's a bird nest on the tree in the backyard. Little uncle, let's knock the bird's nest down and we'll have bird eggs. This little brat sure knows a lot. Dealing with Tian Shu Xing Jun earlier had already sapped me of energy. So how in the world would I have the strength to humor a child? I pulled a stern look. Bah! Knock down my foot? What if you fall? Go back to your room and practice your calligraphy. Jinning pouted, his little paws still tightly grasping my robe. I'm not going back. I want to hear the story of the lizard spirit. Tell me, little uncle. All right, then. In any case, this brat would definitely fall asleep midway into the story, and once he slept, this immortal lord could get my peace. Lizard spirit. How to go about spinning a yarn about a lizard spirit. So if anyone doesn't know, that means like creating a tale, spinning a yarn, telling a story. As expected, Jinning fell soundly asleep midway through the story. I carried him out of the chamber, and the wet nurse from the eldest branch of the family, having gotten accustomed to this ritual, was already waiting in the courtyard. She curtsied and greeted me with a smile. So he's gone pestering third young master again. Then she took Jinning and returned to my eldest brother Shen's court, and I finally got myself some peace and quiet. At first sign of night, the lanterns sprang to life with their light. I finished my dinner, bathed, and changed my clothes, then summoned the maidservant from the side chamber to ask after the young master there. Seeing that it was almost time, this immortal lord ought to go and sleep with Tian Shu. The maidservant answered. The young master is in poor health. He only took 2 sips of tea in the evening, coughed for a spell, then passed out. He had just woken up, so this young, humble servant stepped out to warm up the tea for him. I made a sound of acknowledgement and trod lightly as I made my way to the side chamber. Upon hearing an object falling to the ground, I shoved the door open. In the dim yellow light, Mu Ruoyan was hanging from a ceiling beam, a strip of his white silk sash wound tightly around his neck. Trigger warning, I guess. I'm sorry. My heart dropped. I had not expected Tianshu Xingjun to be so fragile in the face of humiliation. I'd merely shot off a few words in the afternoon, and that was all it took for him to harbor the intent to die. I scrambled to release him, bearing his body back to earth. If Mu Ruo Yan died, how was I to explain this to the Jade Emperor? Mu Ruo Yan lay limp and light in the crook of this mortal lord's arms, his eyes tightly shut, his complexion spotlessly pale. Tentatively, I held a finger under his nose. No breathing. No matter what I did, from punching his philtrum to patting his back, it was to no avail. How abominable that those old men in heaven did not even consider this critical juncture. This critical moment, I still could not use even a fraction of my powers. Left with no choice, I steeled myself and moved my lips to channel a breath of immortal air to him. Our mouths connected. Tian Shu's lips were icy cold, but surprisingly soft. That's really not the thought that you should have when you are trying to breathe life back into a person. Oh, you know what? These are kind of soft. Not a detail to notice at the time. When I touched his lips, there came a prick at my conscience. This was quite the advantage I had taken of Tianshu Xingjun. Oh, well, just consider it his repayment to me for saving him twice. Are you saying, like, the embarrassment, or are you like the kiss? Because that's a weird way to put it. I pried Tianshu Xingjun's teeth apart with my tongue and channeled a breath of immortal air within. When finished, I raised my head to wipe my mouth. If Hengwen Xingjun were to learn of this matter, I would never hear the end of it. Tianshu drew in a breath, and his eyelashes fluttered. I thumped his back a couple of times, and when his eyes opened slowly, he promptly broke into a coughing fit. I smiled savagely at him, seeking death right under my nose. I went to such efforts to drag you back here. How could I let you die so easily? The Jade Emperor was not pulling his punches when it came to the first 20 years of tormenting. It did not take me much effort to pick him up and toss him onto the bed. Mu Ruoyan glared at me, his eyes cold and harsh. Then, with the fleeting hint of a bitter smile in the corners of his lips, he shut his eyes. This immortal lord felt immensely heavy-hearted and miserable. Everyone said it was hard to be a good person, but in truth, it was even harder to be a villain. I could not bear to see Tian Shu in his present state. I told you, he's gonna think he's playing the villain role, and then other dude's actually gonna fall in love with him. What do you want to bet? Several thousand years ago, when I had first descended the heavenly court, the heavenly envoy led me to call on the various immortals. It was among the floating clouds of the 9 heavens that I first met Tianshu Xingjun. He had just stepped out from the Beidou Palace. The other 6 mansions of the Beidou Xingjing, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, followed behind him. In the silvery glow, I saw a poised, elegant figure with white robes and a jade hairpin. It was a sight one would not dare to gawk at, but could not help but want a glimpse of either. He was truly the finest specimen among the immortals. Okay, so this sounds like he had some admiration, if not a bit of a crush on him. At the advice of the heavenly envoy, I turned to the side and waited respectfully. Then I kneeled and prostrated in greeting. This humble immortal is Song Yao, a newcomer to the heavenly court. Greetings to Xingjun. A gaze as clear and cold as stars stopped on me for a mere instant. He nodded and returned the greeting, and went on his way without exchanging a single pleasantry. Even the Jade Emperor did not put on that much air. The Tianshu Xingjun at that time was all lofty and aloof. Who would have thought that he would be reduced to such a state now? What's more, it was this immortal lord who had caused this wretched sight before me now. What a sin. This immortal lord is committing a sin. The Jade Emperor is forcing this immortal lord to sin. It was with a deep bitterness that I continued to address him so ruthlessly. To think the young master of Prime Minister Moose Manor would find a rope to hang himself with like a woman. Did you know the tongues of hanged men will stretch at least 3 centimeters out, and their bowels will empty? The servants of my prince's manor would have to scrub the floor for half a day alone just to collect your corpse for you. Do you want your grandfather, uncle, father, and mother to see you as a hanged ghost in the underworld? Mu Ruo Yan was as stupefied as wood. That's kind of funny. So stupefied as wood. Removed his shoes and socks, shifted him to the inner side of the bed, and covered him with a thin quilt. Then I opened the door and called for another set of pillows and bedding. As 2 young maidservants entered, carrying the bedding, the color drained from their faces at the sight of the still hanging sash. Putting on a frosty look, I instructed them to offload the bedding and remove it. The young maidservants, daring not to speak more than necessary, left with their heads lowered. I discarded my outer robe and shook open the quilt. To Tian Shu, who looked to be dozing against the wall, I said, "Starting tonight, you'll sleep with me. Over time, you'll surely come to see me for the good person I am." The oil lamp went out and the chamber fell dark. I lay on the bed and closed my eyes. The breathing of the man beside me was barely perceptible as he lay there, motionless. I thought Tian Shu would have a hard time sleeping. The bandits had knocked him out for a half day in the mountain stronghold. After I spirited him to the Eastern Commandery Manor, he had slept for yet another half day. Then, after his failed hanging attempt, he passed out again. All in all, he had slept the entire day away. I yawned and rolled over to face the room. Whether or not he could sleep was none of this immortal lord's concern. After all the muss and fuss today had been, this mortal lord's upper and lower eyelids yearned only to meet again. I knew only the stilling of my mind and evening of my breath. Then a mosquito's soft voice called from overhead. "Song Yao Yuan Jun. Song Yao Yuan Jun." I batted at the air, then covered my head. Only sleep mattered. A numbness spread from my chest to my limbs as I began to float. I opened my eyes just a crack and was greeted by a golden glow. Floating in midair, I hurriedly averted my gaze to the world below. 2 dimly visible figures were motionless on the bed. I rose higher and higher, passing through the roof beams and tiles before halting on the rooftop. Mingwei Xingjun stroked his beard under the moonlight, beaming as he greeted me. "Song Yao Yuan Jun." Half propping my eyelids open, I sniped at him rather blearily. "With one book, you hold in your hands the fates of all beings, and yet you still have the leisure to fuss over my mission and lift me out for chit-chat. Song Yao could not be more astounded by your divine skills. What gifted knowledge do you have to be summoning me at this hour?" Old man Mingwei beamed so hard his eyes curved into slits. "Isn't it because you are only available at this time? When you return to the heavenly court, I'll send you a bed of clouds as an apology for disrupting your sweet dreams." Yuan Jun, I saw all that happened in the evening. "Oh, did Mingwei Xingjun see Tian Shu hanging himself, or did he see me channeling a breath of immortal air into him?" I heaved a long sigh. "Just as well that you saw it. I was just about to bring this up with you. May I trouble you to pass on a message to the Jade Emperor? I beseech the Jade Emperor to assign another immortal to these heavenly tribulations. This humble immortal is unable to undertake this responsibility. Tian Shu has a feisty nature, and he seeks death each time he is tormented. may be acting on the Jade Emperor's orders, but who will be held responsible if Tian Shu dies due to a momentary oversight? I'm not doing this anymore. That's precisely why I asked Yuan Jun yourself out tonight. Ningui say. The Jade Emperor has already cast a spell on Mu Ruoyan. Until he goes through all his love trials, he cannot end his life. You can have your way with no holds barred and no misgivings. Didn't they say that he couldn't actually do that? Like, he could do everything but that? Or am I mistaken? Because it was like, just don't lose yourself. Like, don't commit the sin of that these two got into with actually falling in love with each other. Sin. We all know how this is gonna go. Okay. Good heavens. The Jade Emperor was on another level of abhorrent if he prevented Tian Shu from dying by his own free will. All he had done was have an illicit affair with Nanming Daijun, didn't he? Why punish him to such an extent? That's what I'm saying! Like, dude only loved one of his fellow immortals. Like, really? Really? There's nothing wrong with that. I returned to the chamber from the rooftop and repossessed Lisa Ming's body. Tian Shu was still motionless beside me. What if this immortal lord was in his shoes? I shifted to the edge of the bed so that he had more space to himself. Then I faced outward and fell into a sound sleep. The next time I opened my eyes, it was bright. I rose and flipped aside the quilt. Beside me, Tian Shu was lost in slumber. His breathing was long and even. No doubt it was from his steadfast attempts to keep his eyes open until dawn, but his efforts only exhausted him further. Peered at his sleeping face. His expression was serene, his eyes closed in repose, his long brows relaxed. Having come this far, it had not been easy for him to get a good night's sleep. Gingerly, I left the bed and opened the door. Once the maidservant had brought water, I washed up and headed to the small hall for breakfast. It was hardly noon, and my bed-sharing tryst with the frail young master I had abducted must have already become common knowledge. While pacing in my courtyard, I noticed the young servants, maidservants, and wet nurses gathered in twos and threes, whispering furtively and occasionally sneaking glances toward the east wing of Han Court. The moment they saw me, they immediately dispersed. I just pretended not to have seen them. Homosexuality was nothing uncommon. Before this immortal lord's ascent, plenty of wealthy men and noble heirs kept male lovers. What's more, today, there was no point in hiding it. I took the initiative to find Lisa Si Yuan. Second brother, a handsome scholar, was brought here the day before yesterday. Your little brother took a liking to him on sight and would like to keep him in my courtyard. What do you say? This must not have been Li Si Yuan's first time hearing this, as he looked at me with his smile reserved. So, third young brother swings this way. I didn't know at first either, I said. I bet you didn't. But for some reason, I couldn't resist wanting to tie him down the moment I saw him. Your little brother knows his origins are dubious. Although I keep him by my side, I'll also make sure to keep an eye on him and not forget to investigate him. Could you bear to kill him if you really did uncover something? Li Si Yuan asked. I twitched my face, then said with a soft sigh, Second brother knows my weakness well. My investigation turned something up. I'd like to ask you to show mercy and hand him to me so I can deal him a quick death. Don't don't torture him. Li Xuan laughed and came from behind his desk to pat my shoulders. I never expected you to be a tender-hearted romantic. I investigated the rest of the guards yesterday and found nothing of significance. Just keep him. When our father returns, I'll put in a good word for you. I hurriedly thanked him in delight. Thank you, second brother. Thank you so much. Don't just thank me, Li Xuan said. How about treating me to a round of wine? You do me a favor at no cost to yourself, yet you still want to fleece me out of a round of fine wine. I called all my servants and maidservants attending before me and said it plain. From today onward, the young Master Yan in the East Wing is my man. Wait upon him as respectfully as you treat this young master. There must be no lapses. If I find out that you have uttered so much as a disrespectful word to young Master Yan, whether to his face or behind his back, or if you have been neglectful in serving him, I smiled coldly and released my grip on the cup. It fell to the ground and shattered into smithereens as I finished. You'll end up like this cup. Do you understand? My servants shook like leaves and prostrated themselves at my feet. Your wish is our command. Satisfied, I rose from my seat. This immortal lord was getting more and more adept at playing the villain. Of course, I did not forget to torment Tianshu Xingjun with this matter. This immortal lord swaggered into the east wing chamber, where Tianshu was standing by the window. Old man Mingwei had commended me for channeling air to him, a cue, I realized, that I should go all out. So I strolled over and half-wrapped Tianshu in my embrace. With a vivacious smile, I said, Everyone in the prince's manor now knows that you are mine. I've already instructed the steward to swap in a big bed in the principal chamber. From now on, sleep with me in the main quarter. Mu Ruoyan's stiffened body quivered. He partially closed those clear, cold eyes of his. He gave a bleak laugh. Then all at once he broke into a coughing fit and hacked 2 mouthfuls of clotted blood onto my sleeve. It was only after shoving me, staggering, that he said in an uneven voice, I, Mu Ruoyan, was born a real man, parted with the teachings of wise men. I would rather die than be subjected to the humiliation of scoundrels like you. To my surprise, he moved to slam his head against the wall. Knowing that the attempt was futile, I was slow in reacting to this attempt, maybe slower than I should have been. I grabbed his sleeve, but his forehead had already made contact. Fresh blood spilled onto the ground, and he passed out. Once more, I had gone too far. I shouted for the servants, who summoned the physician, who applied medicine to the patient and issued a prescription for more. Utter chaos all around. This immortal lord squatted by Tianshu's bed, feeling very despondent. It appeared that the Jade Emperor had not sent me down to torment Tianshu, but for Tianshu to torment me. Case in point, right now. Tianshu, in his unconscious state, was clenching his teeth so tightly that he could not take in the decoction. His immortal lord could only drink a mouthful before feeding him through our mouths. Tell me, was he the one who got the short end of the stick, or me? Mingwei Xingjun, that old geezer, had said that Tianshu could not die. Easy for him to say. Would have been convenient if Tianshu died. Just find a coffin to put him in, bury him, and that would have been that. When he fainted instead of dying, he was confined to his sickbed, waiting for me to wait on him. If you're so capable, why don't you, old geezer, try? The mortal lord did not dare to curse the Jade Emperor, so I released this barrage on Mingui Xingjun. For every time I cursed him old geezer, I fed Tian Shu one mouthful. A look askance revealed human figures through the door seams and paper windows. No doubt I had an audience of maids and young servants. Mere days ago, everyone in the prince's manor looked at this immortal lord and saw an ill omen. After today, it was with eyes full of understanding, sympathy, and admiration. Admiration for being the lovesick romantic I was. Fearing that Tian Shu would go banging his head against the wall again when he woke, I sprawled at the edge of his bed to sleep. The next day, I was a disheveled sight, looking neither human nor ghost. Several maids and young servants coaxed me to wash up and have my meal. With some effort, they tidied me up so that I looked at least halfway human. I made sure to feed Tian Shu's medicine before noon. It was midway through that he woke up, and the revelation of how he was being fed filled him with such shame and resentment he tried to commit again. This time it was by biting off his tongue. I'd only just finished feeding him a mouthful of medicine that I barely had time to even raise my head, but I grasped his jaw in a moment of desperation, stopped him by planting my mouth on his. I feel like I need to just put a warning on this chapter. I'll like ay. I stopped. My hand slipped and his teeth clamped down firmly on my tongue. The blood splurted. The pain almost tore me apart. For several days, I lived with a swollen tongue and slurred speech. I could only drink cool tea. Not even hot soup was an option. Perhaps Tian Shu had let off some steam injuring this immortal lord, or perhaps he realized after several attempts to bite his tongue off that it was hopeless. But there was no further commotion from him. I was secretly rejoicing when the maidservant came in with the report. Young Master Yan was not taking his medicine, eating a grain of rice, or drinking a drop of water. Good grief, he was on a hunger strike again. I rubbed my temples and slurred. Let him starve. He won't starve to death anyway. That might have been the case, but Mu Ruoyan had been skin and bones to begin with. A few more days of this, and he would look like a skeleton. Heaven forbid he get fresh air in the courtyard at night, scaring everyone to death. So, I applied some cooling medicine to my tongue and made my way to the east wing again. Mu Ruoyan was breathing feebly, his face having lost so much color it was a sheet of paper. He had found a spot in a chair where he pretended to meditate when he saw me enter the chamber. I tried my best to enunciate my words. You have a death wish, but why can't you find a better way to die? A hunger strike, is it? This young master heard ghosts who started that don't pass into the underworld. They become wandering souls that devour our souls or the life force of other beings. Reuniting with your kin and General Shan a century later will be but a pipe dream. Alright, that's the only time I think I'm going to do that. I hope you could make it here. I'll read it out in a normal tone so you can hear it. I tried my best to enunciate my words. You have a death wish, but why can't you find a better way to die? A hunger strike, is it? This young master heard ghosts who starve to death don't pass into the underworld. They become wandering souls that devour other souls or the life force of other beings. Reuniting with your kin and General Shan a century later will be but a pipe dream. I wanted to be a little dramatic with it. I turned to leave, and Tian Shu suddenly spoke. Young Master Li knows quite a bit about the supernatural. I turned back and grinned. Rumors have it that this young master is the Tiger Star incarnate. Of course the Tiger Star would know a lot about the supernatural. The mere sight of Tianshu brought my tongue nothing but pain. There was no fun in saying more, so I threw a last quip and strode out the door. If you don't believe me, go ahead and starve to death. Come nightfall, the maidservant Luo Yue told me that young Master Yan was eating. This immortal lord was also having my meal then. On hearing the good news, I forgot to blow on my soup and took a spoonful into my mouth, and it hurt so much that my face soon became a mask of agony. Luo Yue stood by my side as I suffered. With reddened eyes, she said, Young master, everyone can see just how well you treat young Master Yan. This humble slave believes that as long as he is not a hard-hearted man, he will come to understand your sincere feelings for him. The immortal lord almost wept. My feelings for him. Oh, Jade Emperor, was it really Tian Shu you sent me here to torment? Young Master Yan ate his meal. Young Master Yan took his medicine. This immortal lord's tongue healed. Young Master Yan's scars faded. Unable to seek the death he wanted, Tian Shu was no different from a walking corpse. His eyes were hollow and his expression wooden. He did not cry, laugh, or speak. Instead, he put himself at others' mercy, letting them do as they wished to him. I shifted him into my bedchamber, where we ate and slept together. He did not eat much, and I did not force him. At night, we each slept on our own side of one large bed. He lay motionless on his side, and I paid him no attention. This went on for several days, and all this time Mu Ruoyan was like a puddle of stagnant water, making neither waves nor ripples. Once, I saw him pluck up the pendant hanging on his chest, and it was only when he was looking at that piece of jade that there came a spark to his eyes. His emotions might have been as flat as still, rippleless water, but I had waves to make. The Jade Emperor had sent this immortal lord down to inflict him with trials of love, not to wait on him every waking moment. These days I could be found spouting sweet nothings as I held Mu Ruoyan in my arms. Mu Ruoyan, on the other hand, did not seem to be fooled. I spoke, he listened, and he was about as responsive as he had been before. There was a day I sat Mu Ruoyan in the back garden's lakeside pavilion. Knowing he disliked being perceived, I dismissed the attendants, instructing them to stay away unless the matter was important. Still, Mu Ruoyan was like a log. No matter what topic I broached, he remained silent and wooden. It was extremely boring. I spent half the day speaking to this wooden stake of a man until it parched me, but with no one around to attend to us, I had to go searching for tea myself. I returned with a teapot in hand, but stopped on a narrow path amid the flowering shrubs. It gave me a look into the pavilion from afar, where Mu Ruoyan was staring blankly at that piece of jade. This immortal lord was delighted. The moment to torment Tian Shu was here. This immortal lord strode into the pavilion and set the teapot heavily on the stone table. In a frosty voice I said, What were you looking at just now? Mu Ruoyan looked up at me. A hint of panic flashed across his face. Then he turned back into wood as he mildly replied, The scenery? Letting out a savage smile, I yanked his left hand up and forcefully pried it apart. Holding the jade pendant by its string, I raised it high. What is this? A common pendant and my family heirloom, Mu Ruoyan answered. I palmed the pendant as I held it behind my back. A common pendant? You mean the common pendant Shan Shang Ling gave you, right? The immortal lord has never heard the outrage of a cuckold husband catching his wife in the act, so I gave my best approximation. I grasped Mu Ruoyan's frail shoulders and shook my head with a bitter grief. In what way am I, Lisa Ming, inferior to that Shan person? After all this young master has done for you, why are your heart and eyes filled with only that Shan Sheng Ling? I admit these words were really a tad too gross, but at this moment this immortal lord could think of no other tricks. Released my grip on him, took a step back, and spat venom. Can't tell which of your words are true and which are lies. Since this piece of jade is just a common pendant, I raised my hand and flung it towards the lake. The black dot arced through the air and kicked up a spray of water. Mu Ruoyan's face turned deathly pale. He stood and laughed bitterly. This humble one can't tell which of young Master Li's words are true and which are lies either. You keep me captive in your esteemed residence, but I can hardly hazard a guess as to your motives. I abducted you to torment you, and that is heaven's secret. Of course you can't guess. Regardless of the intention you seem to harbor, you always act contrary to it. This humble one is merely a wanted fugitive of the imperial court, a worthless person akin to rotten wood beyond saving. What is it about me that is deserving of such unrelenting and painstaking effort on your part? Oh, Tianshu, the unrelenting one making such painstaking efforts is his venerable the Jade Emperor. This immortal lord is merely acting on his orders. It's tough for me, too. Not breaking eye contact, Mu Ruoyan suddenly smiled. Young Master Li, you're not like men, right? Huh? You... This immortal lord blanked out for a moment. Did he see through my act? I calmed myself. That was impossible. This immortal lord had been going all out playing this show. No way there could be a slip-up. Mu Ruoyan never once looked away as he leaned against the railing. His sleeves fluttered gently in the breeze, just like the high and lofty Tianshu Xingjun standing amidst the silvery clouds the very first time I went to that heavenly palace, the Nine Heavens. Young Master Li, is there anything particular to be said about ghosts who drown to their deaths? Before I could return to my senses, Mu Ruoyan had already leapt over the railing and thrown himself into the lake. Oh, good heavens. Don't tell me old man Mingwei is sabotaging me behind my back. Why must Tianshu try to take his life every time I make my move? I stared at a lock of gradually disappearing black hair on the water surface and thought, why not just let him have a soak? He'll find out he can't die, then there will be no next time. Suppose I fished him out of the water. Suppose that after that, Tianshu Xingjun tried out 18 ways to commit for a trial run, and after jumping off the cliff and consuming poison, he still did not die. My body and spirit might very well just disintegrate from the ordeal. The very first immortal skill this immortal lord had learned in the heavenly court was the act of parting water. Actually, this immortal lord had a phobia of water. I stared at the water's surface, feeling a little dizzy. It would not do to leave Tianshu down there either. This immortal lord, having attained the Tao so many years ago, had ventured the firmament up above and the yellow springs down below. What was there to fear in one lake? I flung off my outer robe and dove into the water. The lake water unceremoniously glugged up along my nose and mouth, choking me until I felt dizzy and my vision blurred. I considered whether to stretch out my hands or my legs first. This was such a big lake, and I did not know where Tianshu had sunk. The roar in my ears grew louder and my head felt heavier. Oh no. Lisa Ming could not hold out any longer. A thin voice shouted in my ears. Song Yao Yuan Jun. Tianshu Xingjun is here. All at once, my body became light. The lake water around me parted, opening up a large expanse of space in all directions. An old turtle at the bottom of the lake greeted me with a bow of its head. This humble deity, Shen, Zen, Shou Zhen, is the steward of the creatures of this lake. Greetings to Yuan Jun. I had not expected the Prince's Lake to be inhabited by a water deity. More than that, I did not expect that I, the great Song Yao Yuanjun, would nearly drown to death in this lake without my divine powers. Beside the old turtle, Mu Ruo Yan lay with his eyes shut. The old turtle said, Xing Jun has swallowed 2 mouthfuls of water. He's passed out, but will be fine after going ashore and catching his breath. This humble deity was a little tardy in saving him, and for that I beg your pardon. I cupped my hands in greeting and said with an apologetic smile, Elder Zan, you are too polite. If not for you, even I may have lost my life in this lake. Please excuse me for making a mockery of myself. Yuan Jun, you can't fully deploy your divine powers. That's why you are afraid of water. This humble deity has a water-parting pearl here. If you don't mind this humble gift, please accept it, and you'll be able to come and go freely in the water. Dude, that is an awesome gift. I said my thanks and put away the water-parting pearl, after which I picked up Tian Shu in my arms and opened up a path to return to the banks. Then, supporting Mu Ruo Yan's head in my palm, I began to channel a breath of immortal air in the way I was now too familiar with. I had only just parted his teeth apart with my tongue and transferred the second mouthful of breath when a voice suddenly piped up beside me. Little uncle, what are you doing? Oh, I love kids. I jerked my head up, my face burning a little. Jining sucked on his finger, his black round eyes blinking as he stared at me. Jin Shu, on the other hand, hid behind him, only half of his little face peeking out. Coughed once. This uncle fell into the water. Your little uncle is channeling air to him. Jining tilted his head. Channeling air? What's that? I've seen Dad do that to Mom. Eldest uncle said it's called kissing. You can only do it after getting married. Is little uncle married to this uncle? Why do you have to kiss? Why is little uncle calling it channeling air? This immortal lord laughed dryly. The thick skin I had cultivated for several thousand years nearly cracked. Ahem. About that. What little uncle did might look very much like kissing. But actually, it's meant to save people. Only a man and a woman can get married, so how can little uncle and this uncle get married? So this is called air channeling, not kissing. I raised a hand to stroke his head. Don't say a word of this to anyone else. Jining, eyes shone. He puffed up his little chest and said, Little uncle, don't worry. I won't tell anyone. I get it now. It's called kissing between a man and a woman. Little uncle and uncle are both men, so it's air channeling. I choked on my saliva and nearly fainted. I think I'm going to like this kid. Jining squatted down by my side. Smacking his fingers, he stared at Mu Ruoyan and said in all seriousness, Little uncle, I want to help channel air to this uncle too. Can I? This immortal lord almost choked with exasperation. I pulled a stern face and said solemnly, air channeling is a form of martial arts. You're still young, so you can't train it or use it. You'll naturally understand when you grow up. Little uncle is going to take this uncle back. Behave yourself and play here with your big brother. Picking up Mu Ruo Yan, I scurried back to my courtyard. I turned the corner of the trail and looked out the corner of my eye. Jining was still standing in the same spot, looking at me with puppy dog eyes. Mu Ruoyan coughed out 2 mouthfuls of water on the bed in the bedchamber. After catching his breath, he finally came to. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I gazed into his eyes and pulled the quilt up for him. Ghosts that drown have bloated stomachs and swollen heads. They are the ugliest ghosts. Mu Ruoyan's eyes were pitch black and bottomless. Continue. Ghosts that cut their own throats regenerate another mouth in their necks. Rule that enters the regular mouth exits from the mouth in their neck. They cannot enjoy their offerings. Ghosts that jump off a cliff lose their 4 limbs and can only wiggle on the ground. Ghosts that consume poison have their faces scorched black. Blood trails from their 7 orifices. They cannot speak, and all they swallow and spit is miasma. Ghosts that burn to death retain their scorched looks. Then there are also ghosts that swallow gold. I smiled. So if you want a smooth ride to see Yan Wang, the king of the underworld himself, Buddha or the Jade Emperor, you can only follow heaven's will and behave yourself while you wait for the ghost guards to come calling. Tian Shu stared unblinkingly at me, and I said in all earnestness, "No more of this, all right?" Mu Ruoyan was still looking at me in silence, a curious expression on his face. Being scrutinized in such a manner sent an unexpected pang of guilt through this immortal king. Could not help but say, "Don't worry, I..." The door suddenly slammed open and something lunged over. "Little uncle!" I closed my eyes, dispirited. Why is this little brat here? Didn't I tell you to go back to playing in the garden? Where's Jinshu? Be a dear, won't you? Little uncle is in the middle of something. Jining pulled at the front of my clothes, wailing miserably, "Little uncle, it hurts." I pressed my throbbing temple. Where does it hurt? Did you knock against something in the garden? Be a good boy and go look for your mother. Get her to call for the physician. Jining pulled up my hand, using it to open his mouth wide. Here! The tooth's shaky. It hurts. Felt the shaky molar. You're growing out your milk teeth now. Once this one drops, you'll grow a new one in its place. How can changing out your milk teeth hurt? Jining clambered up my knees. It didn't at first, but Dad said grandfather and uncle will be returning today, and there'll be wild deer meat to eat. I want to eat wild deer meat, but my tooth's shaky. Feels terrible. Want to pull it out. I thanked my lucky stars for attaining the Tao and ascending in my youth. Had I gotten married and sired such a child, I would have lost 10 years off my life just from how much he pissed me off. Oh, but he's a cutie. He loves you, his little uncle. Jining twisted around on my lap. Meanwhile, Mu Ruoyan lifted the quilt and sat up, and Jining immediately turned to him. Blinking his eyes, he greeted, "Uncle?" Mu Ruoyan raised his eyebrows, and a hint of a smile actually materialized on his face. Jining immediately took to him like a fish to water and struggled to get off my lap. "Uncle, my tooth hurts." Mu Ruoyan asked in an affable voice. "Does it hurt a lot?" Jining threw himself at the bedside and nodded his head vigorously. I caught the shine in his eyes as he looked at Tian Shu, the way he seemed ready to crawl onto him, and was instantly alert. Mu Ruoyan's current body seemed like it had just been glued together. How could he withstand this brat's chubby body? Jinning's little paws crawled up Mu Ruoyan's knees. Blinking his watery puppy eyes at him, he gaped his blood-thirsty mouth wide in an ingratiating grin. Between his teeth, there was even a silvery thread of saliva. My tooth hurts. Uncle, channel air to Jinning to cure it. I covered that disaster of a mouth. Expression frosty, I picked this hairbringer of calamity up by the collar and lifted him out the door. Janine kicked out with both legs and yelled shamelessly, "Little Uncle's a bad egg! Little Uncle won't let Uncle channel." I dragged Jinning to the yard. The little brat wailed aloud, his snot smearing all over this immortal lord. The maid servants on the walkway barely concealed their laughter. I pretended not to see and growled, "Where is the wet nurse? Men, send the little young master back to his room." Two purse-lipped young maidservants came to coax the little scourge away. Someone hurried into the courtyard and kneeled beside this immortal lord. "Third young master, his lordship and eldest young master are back. They've brought along a distinguished guest and are in the main hall right now. His lordship has instructed you to head for the main hall immediately." What do you want to bet it's this dude's lover? This immortal lord hastily changed my outer robe and hurried into the main hall. Isn't he still, wet? Like, he just jumped into a pond. And you only change his outer robe? Huh. Xu Xian and Si Yuan were both standing to the right of the main hall. A gentleman in azure outfit was sitting on the guest seat, his inky black hair half secured with a jade crown and half cascading down the sides of his shoulders. He was the very picture of carefree elegance. I strode across the threshold, and the prince said, "Why are you so late?" "That's just being a poor host to our honored guest. Here, let me introduce you. This young Master Xiao is an advisor in my employ. You will be living in the manor from now on. You must treat him with utmost respect. See that he was well attended to." The young master in azure stood. The sight both startled and delighted me, like the brilliant bloom of 3,000 peach blossom trees sweeping in the spring breeze. His smile was soft amidst the magnificence of 3,000 peach blossom trees. "This humble one is Xiao Heng. Greetings, young Master Siming." Okay. Now, with that description, part of me is like, is he going to fall for this one and that's how the heavenly tribulation's going to go? Because, that was a pretty flowery description of a person. That was fruity. And I just saying, that was pretty fruity. All right. We got a big one. Chapter 5 is kind of beefy. So, I'm going to take a quick sip. How's everybody liking it so far? I know we're just kind of doing introductions this time, getting a little bit of the plot, building it up. Okay. Boy. All right. Oops. Chapter 5. This immortal lord was like an old tree battered by the snow and frost, one whose branches could not help bloom with flowers at the first touch of a spring breeze. Simply put, I was over the moon. In my unadulterated joy, I stared at the man opposite me a tad too long, and without realizing it, my smile had widened. Li Siyuan's cough, cough, cough behind me jolted me back to my senses. I'd been making to grasp Xiao Heng by the hands, but the coughing intensified. The prince of the Eastern Commandery looked a little worried. You're coughing nonstop. Did you catch a cold?" "I'm fine," Li Siyuan said. "Might have choked on my own saliva earlier." Then he joked. Third brother must really be taken with young Master Shao's looks. He's forgotten to even greet him. Ha ha. This immortal lord snapped out of it. I cupped my hands and greeted. It's an honor to meet you. This humble one is Li Siming, young Master Shao. Please don't stand on ceremony. After thousands of years of fair weather banter up in heaven, we still had to feign civility before the others. Interesting, interesting, the prince said. This father of yours has had to persistently invite young Master Shao for several days before he was willing to join us as an aide. The three of you must treat him with the utmost courtesy. You will only call him Master Zhao in the future. For days? Must have been a trick. Waited for you to invite him, putting on airs, but actually dying to sharpen his head and drill his way in here. Master Shao played his part with a smile. Your lordship is too kind. Shao Heng is not deserving of it. Not at all, not at all, the Prince of the Eastern Commandery said, and instructed the servants to tidy up a chamber for Mr. Zhao, attend to him as he bathed and changed, and prepare a feast to welcome his guest. Seeing as Master Zhao would be surrounded by servants at all times, I returned to my courtyard. I was on pins and needles as I shared some stories with that wooden stake, Tian Shu, partially in conversation with him and partially with myself. After Jiang Xia arrived in Xiping, Yuanshi Tianshu had spoken of his disciples' achievements several times, but this immortal lord could not remember them at this moment. Ahem. When Yang Jian cleaved Mount Huan, heaven and earth underwent a kaleidoscope of changes. The stars shook in their wake. That black bear spirit sprang out from the mountains and said, Taoist priest Shang, I have never harmed a single human while cultivating here. Why do you insist on taking my life? Young Master Li. This was the first time Mu Ruoyan took the initiative to talk to this immortal lord. For a moment, I was flabbergasted, unable to wrap my mind around it. Are you sick of hearing the sound of my voice? If that's the case, I'll take a stroll in the courtyard. You should rest. It's fine. A tiny smile materialized on Mu Ruoyan's face again, looking for all the world like glorious sunlight on water. Guan Yu Battles Qin Qiao is a good book. Jiang Xia, the deity Erlang, and Taoist priest Shang's valiant battle against the Black Bear is truly a fantastic tale. I coughed self-consciously. You caught a cold after falling into the water today, so you should lie down and warm yourself up. I cough. This young master will instruct the servants to boil you some ginger soup. I spent the last hours of the day strolling through the courtyard. Mu Ruoyan and I exchanged a few words of pleasantries at the welcome feast for Master Shao, returned to our respective chambers once it ended. After my nighttime routine, I lay down beside Mu Ruoyan. When the night was deep and all was still, I heard soft laughter overhead. Song Yao, are you intoxicated with bliss yet, sharing the same bed as Tianshu Xingjun? Restrained in Li Siming's mortal flesh, I could not return fire, so my only response was to rise from the quilt. The voice overhead asked, What are you getting up for? It won't do to alarm Tianshu with sudden motion. Lie down. I'll release you. My mind cleared and my limbs relaxed. Breaking free of Li Siming's body, I raised my eyes for a look around, then passed through the door. Standing under the moonlight, the speaker said, Fortunately, there is an art for cloaking immortals. If someone were to see you and me in this state, nonsensical rumors would fly. After enduring it for half a day, this immortal lord could finally close the distance between us. Hangwen! Hengwen Qingjun fanned that worn, folded fan of his. I saw you embracing Tianshu and acting intimate with him from the heavenly court, and couldn't help but descend for a look. The view from afar is not as vivid as watching from the front seat. All more like gossipy old ladies. Don't tell me this immortal lord's hard time on earth is being watched by my fellow immortals from the clouds. My face twitched. How did you see it? The days in the heavenly court are laid back and carefree, and it's inevitable that one feels lonely, Heng Wen said. Mingwei has a mortal realm observation mirror that allows one to see ongoing events in the mortal world. Occasionally, he would take me to view with him. To think, old man Mengwei still had such an object in his hands. Who knows who else he had asked to watch? He had asked along to watch the mirror other than Hengwen. The thought of all those eyes in heaven that were watching while I was hugging, channeling air to, and feeding medicine to Tianshu, my face burned. Since you saw it from the mirror, you should know the kind of life I've been leading after descending here. Is your trip down this time on the Jade Emperor's order or in private? Having been friends with Hengwen for thousands of years, this immortal lord knew his temperament well. Despite his mean words, he must have seen how tragic a sight I was in the mortal world, so descended exclusively to lend me a helping hand. Mingwei Xingjun has so many trifles to attend to that he has no time to concern himself with what's happening here, Hengwen said in a leisurely tone. Nanming Daijun is a formidable man in this life. The Jade Emperor fears that you cannot defeat him without immortal skills. You would need someone to assist you. All in all, I'm the only one in the immortal realm who has the free time. You and I are comparatively more familiar with each other. So, he sent me down. Heng Wen went on to tell me that after ascending, he had encountered the prince of the Eastern Commandery and Li Xian under the pretext of being on his way back to Shengchuan City from a border town. The meeting turned into conversation about military strategy at a tea booth. Who was Hengwen Xingjun, you ask? He was an exalted lord in the heavenly court who oversaw the world's knowledge. With just a few words, he had beguiled the prince of Eastern Commandery so that the latter, dizzy with amazement, called him a gentleman of outstanding talent and repeatedly invited this great god to his residence. As of late, this mortal lord held no shortage of pent-up resentment against the Jade Emperor, but I had misjudged him. Although the Jade Emperor committed the occasional abhorrent act, he was still immensely virtuous, wise, and benevolent. Sending Heng Wen down to the mortal world was like giving the cold and starving a bowl of hot ginseng soup in the snow. That was benevolent. It was like bestowing a pair of wings on a ferocious tiger. That was wise. One quick second. I actually just got a message I need to respond to real quick. I will be right back into it in just a moment. Talk amongst yourself. Almost done. Okay, thank you for being patient. I stood with Heng Wen by the lotus pond and took him in, my heart full of joy. Returning my gaze, Heng Wen smiled. This time I descended using the name you gave me, Xiao Heng. I gave a silent chuckle and suddenly remembered something. Where's the chamber they put you up in? Show me so I'll know the way. Heng Wen readily led me over. As it turned out, it was a principal wing to the left after exiting my Han court. Looking into the chamber, I could not make out a thing in the nighttime dark. Felt my way to the bedside, where I took my seat and could not help but sigh. I feel like sleeping whenever I see a bed. I haven't been sleeping well. If you want to sleep, go ahead, Heng Wen said. In any case, Lisa Ming is still in bed with Tian Xun. Oh, I just put that back up. Whatever, it's fine. It's not on fire. I'll send you back before dawn. This immortal lord did not stand on ceremony with him. I was tormented throughout the day, and at night I was still painfully conscious of Tianshu beside me, taking care not to crush him when I turned over, not to block my airway when I slept so that I would not startle him awake by snoring. It was one worry after another. I had no peace of mind. This immortal lord rolled onto the inside of the bed and yawned, feeling sleepy. Heng Wen lay down beside me, and I said, "You might as well lift me out every night. Let Lisa Ming sleep with Tianshu. This immortal lord will find his own bed." Heng Wen said leisurely, "Listen to yourself. You share a bed with Tianshu Xingjun, of all people, every night, and you still are nitpicking your circumstances. Aren't you afraid lightning will strike you? You seem to enjoy it when you're hugging Tianshu, feeding him medicine, and channeling air to him. So why are you putting up the front before me?" He moved his head closer to my ear and whispered, "So is your heart moved to getting Tianshu Xingjun's divine favor?" I reached out to wrap my arms around Heng Wen, propping myself up as I said vivaciously, "Tianshu might be delicate and pretty, but how can you compare to elegant, unparalleled charm that ranks Heng Wen Qingjun first in all of heaven? With Qingjun by my side, how can Song Yao have eyes for anyone else? Song Yao has had only one evil design these thousands of years, that is to have one nighttime tryst with Qingjun. Qingjun agrees." "I agree," Heng Wen said in a low baritone. What do you want to bet he actually does have a little bit of a crush on him? "I agree," Heng Wen said in a low baritone. "Now what?" This immortal lord curbed my vivacious smile and said in all seriousness, "Then the heavenly troops will descend and capture us back to the heavenly court. The Jade Emperor will definitely show you mercy and punish you with detention or demotion. At worst, you'd be a Yuan Jun of the same rank as me. On the other hand, my head will rot and roll on the immortal execution terrace, or worse, my head will roll, then I'll be struck by a bolt of lightning that obliterates me clean." Heng Wen knocked me back onto the pillow. "You know the consequences, so when you are with Tianshu, remember not to go too far. You can very well imagine your fate if you, the one who sets the trials, ends up on the receiving end instead. When that happens, I might not be able to protect you." So he was afraid that this immortal lord would develop feelings for Tianshu after channeling a few mouthfuls of air to him. I yawned. "Don't worry. When I was immortal, a fortune teller said I was doomed to suffer a fate of eternal solitude. I'm destined to 100 lifetimes without a wife, and even if I were to reincarnate 100 times, no one would take a fancy to me. Have I told you? Before I ascended to the heavenly court." Heng Wen mumbled, "Mm-hmm." You've said this many times, and turned over and fell silent. This immortal lord frowned. I'm not done talking. You didn't even know what I was about to say, and your first response is to tell me you've heard this story before? Talk about shutting your friend down. Feng Wen did not even make a sound of acknowledgement. From the looks of it, he had fallen asleep. I sighed in resignation and rolled over, facing inward. Perhaps I really had told him about the incident before. I had probably rambled once or several times to Heng Wen about all my mortal follies for my ascension. However, I thought it was still worth talking about, and for good reason. Because in all my thousands of years of existence, human and immortal, that incident was the only one that had anything remotely to do with that word. It was the one and only time I had fallen in love as a mortal. I was in the prime of my youth then, and I would spend whole days frequenting the brothels for entertainment, thinking myself to be a free-spirited romantic. One day, while on the streets of Chang'an, a sudden look back revealed to me a ravishing beauty leaning against a railing, and with that one glance, she sealed my fate. She was a courtesan who sang in the brothel. A song from her would set you back 10 bolts of fine silk, and you needed at least 100 taels of gold to spend a night with her. I generously blew 1,000 taels, easily exchanging them for a glorious night with her. Unwilling to make her feign conjugal bliss in bed, I simply sat and chatted with her every night, doing all I could to please her in the hope that she would willingly profess her love for me. In the end, she did not fall for me, but for an impoverished scholar. She sold off all the jewelry, antiques, jadeware, valuable ink slabs, and the precious 7-string zither that I gifted her to rent a house for the impoverished scholar and sponsor his studies. She also bribed every official involved so that he could participate in the imperial examination. In the end, that impoverished scholar emerged as the top scholar in the imperial examinations. A pink sedan chair carried her into his residence, where they finally wedded, and she became another man's wife. And so, a love story for the ages made its rounds on the street. That's kind of sweet, though. She knew who she wanted, and she helped him get to a point where it worked. And in that tale, I was the sucker who financially helped the lovebirds get together. That's a little harsh. One can very well imagine just how crushed this immortal lord was. I drowned my sorrows in wine in the day and lamented my broken heart with poems at night. Could recite every one of the mournful poems in forlorn verses backwards, from Li Siming Yin's Lamentations of the Passing of Spring to Wei Shuang's Melancholy of Autumn to Du Mu's 10-year intoxicating dream of Yang Shou. I was broken-hearted from the 9th day of the 9th month to the 5th month of the following year. I caught her during the Dragon Boat Festival in the main hall of the temple where she would light incense. I asked her then, in what way is that scholar better than me? My love for her was deep and sincere, yet she had given her heart to a scholar. She replied, Young master speaks of nothing but love, but in truth, you did not understand what love is. You thought falling for someone meant squandering money, and that loving someone was to give gifts of a precious 7-string zither, scented fans, jade bracelets, and golden hairpins. My husband, though poor then, could open up his heart to me, and I him. You might be the young master of a wealthy and powerful clan, but you probably haven't even eaten wonton noodles from a roadside stall. You mistake personal whim for true love. So how can you understand the principle that we are one when a couple is mutually in love? Dejected, I left the temple and loitered on the streets. Over a year of pining and heartache, and she made it all out to be a momentary whim nothing. From where I was standing, I spied swirling smoke on the side of the street. Was my love not love only because I had never eaten wonton noodles? I mean, if only it was that easy, buddy. Downcast, I strolled to the source of the spiraling smoke and dragged a small stool before the short table. Then I sat and ordered forlorn. Boss, give me a bowl of wonton noodles. And after drinking that bowl of noodle soup, I became the immortal Song Yao. Heng Wen had put on a show of comforting me. Fate, such is fate. Heaven's will cannot be defied. Right. This was the derision with which Heng Wen had responded to this immortal lord's plight. I had indeed told him of this incident before. The immortal lord had responded with a long sigh. Fate decreed that I was doomed to a life of eternal solitude. Heng Wen, lying with his eyes shut by the lotus pond, responded, No, no. Fate decreed that you would become an immortal. In which case, the show about Tianshu and Nan Ming came from a similar playbook as my bygone love incident. Li Siming took a liking to Mu Ruoyan, who was mutually in love with Shan Shengling. Li Siming held Mu Ruoyan captive by his side, using every means possible to torture and break the lovebirds up. The Jade Emperor would never arrange a happy ending for Nanming and Tianshu, but Mu Ruoyan and Shan Shengling stayed mutually and unwaveringly in love. Dare I say that I'm still, in truth, the sucker who helped the lovebirds get together? Don't tell me I'm fated to play this sort of role in this kind of show. Jade Emperor, that abhorrent geezer! This immortal lord fell asleep with pent-up grievances, so much so that I even dreamed of an armored-clad Nanming Daijun bringing a little pink sedan to the gate of the manor with his blade, demanding I return Tianshu to him. Even as I was internally screaming, Daiju, Jun, hurry up, hoist Tianshu onto the sedan and run as far as you can. This immortal lord really doesn't want to attend to him anymore, is vehemently saying, This mortal lord is set on having Tianshu. He's my precious person. No one can snatch him away. In my days, someone dragged me upright and shook me. Looked at Heng Wen, who was grabbing the front of my clothes with partially opened eyes. What? Heng Wen dragged his words out. Your precious Tianshu is on the bed in your bedchamber, coughing out blood right this moment. Stop yelling in your sleep and go check on him. The mortal lord zipped back into Li Siming's bedchamber. Dawn was breaking, and in the half-light I saw Shun's paper-white face. His eyes were feeble, even when shut, and blood trailed from the corner of his lips. A white, blood-stained handkerchief had fallen to the ground. Splotches were also present on the corners of his chin quilt, where his sleeves had opened. Where did this come from? Beside me, Heng Wen said, The object of your affections has already lost blood and passed out. What are you standing around for? Hurry up, take him into your arms and call for the physician. Then he raised a hand and pushed me into Li Siming's body. I rolled over and sat up from the bed. Half holding up Shun, I wiped the blood at the corner of his lips. Heng Wen had used a cloaking spell, but he had made it just so that Li Siming's mortal eyes could see him. From his seat on the stool, he watched Tian Shun slump into my arms with a smile. Bracing myself, I yelled, Men! The maidservant opened the door with a kowtow. In a trembling voice, I instructed, Quick! Summon the physician. Young Master Yan has coughed up blood. The manor physician told me that young Master Yan's pulse was weak and uneven. The cold, coupled with his chronic ailment, has led to a stasis of blood and a buildup of phlegm, and so, and so. I cut him short with a wave of my sleeve. This young master is not well versed in the art of medicine, so what's the point of prattling on and on to me? Since you know what ails him, treat him. The old man assented with a yes and slowly wrote out a prescription. He could only prescribe medicine to stabilize the cough first, he said, implying that Mu Ruoyan's illness could not be wholly cured at its roots. Could not be wholly cured? Wasn't that tuberculosis? Looked down at Mu Ruoyan. No wonder he was sallow and pale and coughed all day. All this time he had tuberculosis? Heng Wen, who had still yet to leave, spoke in unhurried tones from the door. Or from the table, not the door. Look how worried you are. Such tenderness, such heartache. The immortal lord's heart is spasming because of your barbs. What on earth would it have time and energy to hurt? Where on earth would it have the time and energy to hurt? Seeing now that no one was around, I said under my breath, the day has already broken. Isn't young Master Zhao worried that someone would go looking for the advisor? You're right, Heng Wen concurred. I shall return to my bedchamber then. Watch out, Tian Shuan. Oh, watch over. I was like, watch out. Watch over Tian Shun. Shu. A flash of silver light, and he vanished. Finally. This immortal lord sat on the edge of the bed. Tian Shu had yet to wake up. I placed his hand back under the quilt and tucked him more snugly under it. The Jade Emperor seemed to be especially ruthless toward Tian Shu. His entire family was wiped out. He was taken as someone else's lover, and now he was afflicted with tuberculosis. He was made to suffer, hanging there with one foot in the grave. On the contrary, Nan Ming was having the time of his life as a general in the southern commandery. Not once did I hear of any misfortune befalling him. Well, that does seem pretty harsh. Tian Shu woke up before I could finish feeding him his medicine. I reached with the sleeve to wipe the corners of his mouth. Soaking in the water only caused your illness to flare up again. Why make yourself suffer? Mu Ruoyan smiled bitterly. Perhaps this body of mine is fated to be at death's door. I'll have to trouble you again. I said with a feigned smile. You're my precious person. For you, I'd be willing to do anything. The Jade Emperor dumped you on this immortal lord, making you my responsibility. Whatever this immortal lord has to do, it serves this immortal lord right. Grumbling to myself did nothing to quell my anxieties. Unable to bear it, I asked. The physician said your illness is an old ailment. It hasn't been that long since the Mu Manor was prosecuted. Prior to that, you were the young master of the Prime Minister's residence. How did you contract tuberculosis without rhyme or reason? Mu Ruoyang said nothing. Wondered. Don't tell me it has to do with Shen Shengling. Again? As he continued to stay silent, I continued. Your love for him is more solid than gold. When are you going to tell me your love story? I reached out to scoop up a handful of his hair. Let this young master learn how he won your heart. Mu Ruoyan remained silent. I toyed with his hair for a long time before releasing it and left the chamber. On the front of the courtyard's walkway, a shape shot at my leg like an arrow. Little paws grabbed and shook the hem of my robe. Little uncle! Little uncle! My eyebrows twitched. Stroking Jingning's head, I asked, Why are you running around instead of studying? I looked askance to see Jing Shu in hiding, his little head just visible behind a pillar. He shrank back when he realized I had spotted him. His mortal lord prided himself on being charming and carefree, but this child always reacted to me as if I was a real tiger spirit. Perplexing. Jing Ning wrinkled his nose and gave my leg a shake. My hand hurts when I write. Little uncle, I want to go see the uncle in the courtyard. My hand hurts. To ask him to blow the pain away. My face twitched. This slippery brat. From a distance away, Heng Wen approached from the direction of the study. Jing Ning was bogging down my leg, so I stayed where I was and greeted him with a dry laugh. What a coincidence. It's Master Xiao. Heng Wen cupped his hands, all proper-like, as he neared. Third young master. He smiled at the person on my leg. Is this the little young master? That earned another dry laugh from me. Suddenly, Jing Ning released the grip on my leg and pounced on both of Heng Wen's. Gaga! His weight actually caused the tall and slender Heng Wen to stagger back a step. Jing Ning got a tight grip on the hem of Heng Wen's robe and swung it from side to side. Lifting his little face, he asked in a cloyingly innocent voice, Gaga, what's your name? Heng Wen Qingjun was a purebred immortal. He had never been part of this world, and so had never seen such a child before. He was momentarily taken aback. Then, in spite of himself, he broke into peals of laughter. Are you asking me? My surname is Xiao, and my given name is Heng. This immortal lord strode forward and attempted to pull Jin Ning off, but the brat wouldn't budge. Unperturbed by my efforts, he said, Zhao Gaga is good-looking. Jing Ning likes. Hug me, Zhao Gaga. I pulled my face and dragged him away from Heng Wen. Who are you calling Zhao Gaga? This is Mr. Zhao, whom your grandfather invited to the manor. Greet him properly. Jing Shu, who was sucking his finger, had been shiftily closing the distance between his pillar and Heng Wen. As I approached, he shrank back again. Heng Wen, on the other hand, smiled like he was enjoying this as Jing Ning wiggled for another chance to pounce. A voice from the walkway yelled, Ning Er, what are you doing? Jing Ning immediately became the picture of a well-behaved child. His father, Li Xian, strolled swiftly over and pulled Jin Ning over to him by the ear. Jin Shu lowered his little head and greeted him, eldest uncle, in a small housefly-like voice. Li Xian reproached the boy sternly. So ill-mannered before this honored guest. Is that how I raised you? Return to your room and copy the protocol of proper conduct and mindful speech 100 times. Jin Ning's pout quickly turned into a sob and a sniffle. The two wet nurses collected Jin Ning and Jin Shu and whisked them away. Jin Ning cried as he walked, but even as he wiped his snot with his sleeve, he did not forget to look back at Heng Wen. Li Xian cupped his hands. My son is out of line and has been rude to Mr. Zhao. Mr. Zhao, please do not hold this against him. Mr. Zhao was smiling so widely that his eyes were narrowed to slits. So how could he be holding anything against that child? Eldest young master, you're too polite. The little young master is young and simple by nature, but his speech and insights have a natural intelligence to them. Someday he will become an extraordinary talent. Li Xian demurred this compliment with polite humility, then turned to the immortal lord. Father is in the main hall. He calls for you to make haste and see him. Li Xian's expression was heavy. The matter at hand must have been important. It was with no shortage of anxiety that this immortal lord hurried to the main hall and was greeted by Li Si Yuan near the Chinese parasol tree. Partially covering his mouth, he whispered, "Father found out about you and the man in your courtyard. He's furious." The prince of the Eastern Commandery stood at the head seat in the main hall, expression absolutely livid. This immortal lord had barely set foot into the room when he barked, "Close the doors!" The doors slammed tightly shut. The prince pointed to the dense cluster of memorial tablets on the family altar behind him and commanded, "Kneel." I had no choice but to obey. "Shh, old fogies. This one kneel for me will set your reincarnation back 1,000 years. Have fun having your good fortune compromised for 3 lifetimes." The tips of the prince's beard bristled. "Unfilial son. As your father, I have never disciplined you over these 10 or 20 years, given how dim-witted you were. To think you'd even have a homoerotic fetish. A kept man now. Today, watch how this prince breaks this vile inclination of yours before our ancestors," he bellowed. "Bring the disciplinary rod." A beat. Then a young servant emerged with an iron broom that was bound with wires. The broomstick itself was an iron rod as thick as the rim of a small teacup. There was no doubt that the prince came from a martial background. Even his domestic discipline tradition was this violent. On his orders, the young servant pinned me down to a long bench that was brought in, making certain that I could not move. The prince of the Eastern Commandery rolled up his sleeves, swung the broom onto my back. A heavy thud rang out, and the iron wires pierced my flesh. This immortal lord let loose a tragic cry of pain. Golden light entered my vision, and I abruptly shot into the air. Heng Wen grabbed hold of this immortal lord and whispered, "Sorry I'm late." He gently stroked my back. "Were you injured? Does it hurt badly?" He looked apologetic, his gaze worried. "How could this one blow hurt my real self?" I said with a smile. It was Li Siming's mortal flesh that felt the pain. Thanks to you, it only hurt for a moment. If I were unable to count on Mingwei Xingjun, who knows how battered I would be. Heng Wen's expression relaxed. He stayed by my side as we floated and watched as the prince battered Li Siming, one merciless swing after the other. Li Siming's back was covered in blood. The young servant said in a sobbing tone, "Your lordship, third young master seems to have fainted." Only then did the prince stay his hand. "Bastard! To think he'd faint!" The young servant turned Li Siming over, put a hand under his nose, and wailed, "Your lordship, the third young master isn't breathing anymore." Alarm flashed across the prince's face. The young servant dashed off to call for the physician. From our spots above it all, Heng Wen and this immortal lord observed the horde surrounding the living body to feel his pulse, administer acupuncture, force medicine down his throat, pinch his philtrum, and apply ice to his person. I was watching with great interest when I suddenly remembered something. The prince of the Eastern Commandery's ruthlessness had brought even his son into this condition. Had he laid his hands on Tian Shu yet? I hurriedly zapped back to my courtyard. Not in the bedchamber, not in the courtyard either. I chanted a tracing spell to look for him. As it turned out, he had been dragged to the woodshed in the back garden. I hurried over in time to see that a burly servant was just delivering a bowl in his hands to Ruo Yan's mouth. The reddish-black decoction in the bowl still had white foam floating on it. The sight of the bowl thrilled Mu Ruoyan. The tips of his brows and eyes belied only elation as he tilted his head up in anticipation. "Never have I seen you so cooperative when I fed you." I flew into a rage and sent a small flash of lightning down. bowl in the burly servant's hands shattered across against the ground, and the decoction sizzled on contact, emitting white smoke. The burly servant looked in the air, his expression one of terror. How could there be lightning in the room in broad daylight? Ghost! There's a ghost! He prostrated over the ground and kowtowed hard. Please spare my life, O great immortal! Please spare my life! Then he scrambled out of the room wailing, Ghost! Ghost, my foot? What sort of ghost could send down lightning? Mu Ruoyan looked down, then up at the sky. With a self-mocking, bitter smile, he lamented. Looks like heaven is really making a fool out of me. Well, Tianshu, as long as you know, the one making a fool out of you is the Jade Emperor. It's nothing to do with any other mortals in heaven. Technically, it's you too, but not exactly doing it willingly. At some point, Heng Wen had appeared by my side. Even if Tian Shu drank it, it wouldn't have mattered. There was no need for you to reel traces of your immortal self. He won't die if he drinks it, I said, but his stomach will still hurt. Too lazy to keep attending to him. Even if he survived drinking poison with no one to save him, he'd become a demon in the eyes of these people and spell out endless trouble in the future. Heng Wen watched me, but said nothing. Excuses, excuses. We returned to the main hall just in time to see a group of grunting servants carrying Li Siming back to the courtyard. As the prince and his two sons sighed with worry before Li Siming's bed, this mortal lord plunged back into his body. I opened my eyes and cried out feebly, my voice breaking, Ruoyan, Ruoyan, even if I die, I can't go on without you. Looking miserably in the direction where Heng Wen was floating, I closed my eyes despondently. Once again, he lifted me back into midair, and so Li Siming went limp again. With tears in his eyes, Li Si Yuan said, Father, looks like we have no other options. Letting third brother keep that man is better than having him turn back into a human piece of wood again, isn't it? Li Si Xian chimed in as well. Father, it looks like it's fated. The Prince of the Eastern Commandery turned his gaze skyward and let loose a long sigh. What a sin! What evil has this prince done that this little bastard of mine has become like this? His aged eyes welled with tears, and he shut them with unbearable sorrow. Forget it. Even a bastard is his own life with his own fate. Let him be. And he instructed, take physician Guo to the woodshed and see if the man inside can still be saved. A moment later, 3 or 4 people pushed Tian Shu in. The prince looked askance at him and let out a heavy snort and flicked his sleeves. Mu Ruoyan was shoved over to my bed, and when he saw how tragic a sight Li Siming made, his expression wavered a little, making him look more human than the Tian Shu of the past. Li Siming said from Li Si Yuan said from his place by the bed, Third brother, wake up. The one you're pining for is here. Heng Wen put on an artificial smile and patted my shoulder. Time for you to go back and put on a show. He suddenly struck me with a palm, smacking me back into Li Siming's body. I stirred and fluttered open my eyelids. Feebly, I murmured, Ruoyan, Ruoyan. With a trembling hand, I made 2 weak grabs at empty air. To my surprise, my fingers actually wrapped around a solid object, and an icy hand so skinny it jutted against my palm. Mu Ruoyan's hand. I had merely been putting on a show with these 2 attempts. I never expected to really catch his hand. Just as I was pondering how to proceed, a golden light flashed before my eyes, and I was in midair once again. This immortal lord watched helplessly as Li Siming's head drooped back over the bed, his left hand still grasping at Mu Ruoyan's. Breezily, Heng Wen quipped, "Marvelous, marvelous." Li Si Yuan coughed. "Third brother, rest well. We'll visit you again tomorrow." He looked back and signaled Li Si Xian with his eyes. Li Si Xian hurriedly chimed in. Right, right. Third brother is badly hurt and the medicine has just been applied. He needs to recuperate. Father, you should return to your chamber for a rest too." Having given that call to action, he turned now to the young servants and maidservants. "Those not involved, you are dismissed. The rest stand guard outside the door. Once the medicine arrives, serve it to the third young master." The Prince of the Eastern Commandery glanced askance at the bed, sighed aloud, then left with another flick of his sleeves. The others dispersed. Li Si Yuan dawdled until he was the last one left, then swiveled back on his heels to the bed and cupped his hands at Mu Ruoyan. "Our father is obstinate and intense by nature, and my third brother does make the old man worry a lot. Today, his anger got the better of him, and he did you a great wrong. I hope you can understand." Only then did he leave the chamber. The door shut, leaving only Tian Shu and Li Siming in the chamber. I smiled apologetically at Heng Wen. "Can you lift me again after I repossess the body and have Tian Shu release my hand?" Heng Wen tilted his eyebrows. "What's the rush? It hasn't been easy for you to grab his hand, so whatever it is, you should hold it for longer. There's no one around. Let's see how Tian Shu treats you, third young Master Li." This immortal lord could only chuckle in return. Mu Ruoyan stood by the bed, his eyebrows slightly knitted in a frown as he looked at Li Siming, who was now lying motionless on his stomach. Then he bent to gently pry his hand from Li Siming's fingers. He collected up the thin quilt at the side of the bed and draped it over Li Siming. Heng Wen grinned broadly as he looked at me. "This looks promising." That look elicited a dry, embarrassed cough from this immortal lord. I laughed. Tian Shu Xingjun was always compassionate to the weak back in the heavenly court. This inclination of his hasn't changed one bit, even as immortal. A moment later, a young maidservant knocked and entered to deliver a calming decoction. Naturally, she handed it to Mu Ruoyan and said, "May I trouble young Master Yan to feed young master? This humble slave shall take my leave." I love how she did not wait for an answer. She was like, "Here you go." She then curtsied and left. Mu Ruoyan stood there, bowl of medicine in hand. I could not help but crane my neck for a better look. Truth be told, I had actually felt a hint of delight when Tian Shu tucked me in. Li Siming was like the living dead in the bed. I wondered what method Tian Shu would use to feed him the medicine. From behind this immortal lord came Heng Wen's insidious tone. "You're craning your neck so far out, it's like an arch bridge, waiting for Tian Shu to feed you by mouth." Eh? As far as this immortal lord remembered, Heng Wen Qingjun had never learned the art of mind reading. He really was waiting for him to feed him by mouth. I think he's a tsundere. A little bit. I'm getting a little bit of tsundere vibe. Maybe I'm reading too much into. Maybe I want him to be a tsundere. Heng Wen dragged his words out. "Dream on." Then he dragged me back. Then he shoved me back into Li Siming's body. "Behave yourself and drink the medicine." I could only open my eyes and act like I was struggling to wake up. Having possessed Li Siming, I immediately felt my injuries flare up. Feebly, I called out for Ruo Yan. I heard Mu Ruo Yan's clear and cold voice saying, "Here's the medicine. Drink some first." Well, that was why this immortal lord was here to begin with. But I had to put on a show first. I struggled to prop half of my body up, speaking haltingly. Ruoyan, Ruoyan, you're still here. My father, he didn't make things difficult for you, did he? Wordlessly, Mu Ruoyan brought me the bowl. Propping myself up, I accepted the offering and drank. Once the bowl was empty, Mu Ruoyan offered a hand and set it back on the table. When he opened the door, the young maidservant immediately entered to collect the bowl. Like a man on the verge of death, I rest. Young Master Mu is still sick. Take him to the East Wing to recuperate. We'll talk again once I recover from my injuries. The young maidservant assented. Once again, Heng Wen lifted me into midair. Leaving Li Siming lying on his stomach in bed, this immortal lord was free to idle the next few days away. At night, I slept in Heng Wen's bedchamber. In the day, I made myself invisible and strolled around the prince's manor. Then I changed my appearance to go wander the streets. Several times a day, I woke up in Li Siming's body to take my medicine and meals and to relieve myself. Heng Wen, on the other hand, was busy. The prince of the Eastern Commandery held his advisor, Mr. Shao, in high regard. Every day he would invite him along with his two sons to deliberate over major affairs in the study, discussing strategies based on their current state of affairs in the world. I concealed myself beside Heng Wen to listen in once, and it was rather boring. Thus, I very unrighteously abandoned Heng Wen and headed out to the streets to listen to tunes. A betrayed Heng Wen, bearing a grudge thus, refused to let this immortal lord sleep in his bed that night. I could only stand at his bedside and smile in a placating manner. Could Heng Wen, Xingjun dare to let a fellow to sleep on a tree branch in a windy night like this? Heng Wen said, face overcast. There are more than enough unoccupied side chambers in the manor. Can't sleep in one of those? Shook my head. Unoccupied chambers are plenty, but those with a bed and a quilt are few. Then go to Li Siming, Heng Wen said. Such a big bed in that chamber. Then in the east wing, Tian Shu's bed is soft with a thick quilt. It's also a good place to go. Put on a miserable look and said, my back will hurt as Li Siming, and my head will ache sleeping with Tian Shu. Then swapped with the vivacious smile, setting a hand on Heng Wen's shoulder. There may be millions of beds in the world, but this humble one only desires Qingjun's bed. Heng Wen scoffed. You say this like you aren't afraid of being sent to the immortal execution terrace for it. Thus, I successfully wormed my way under Heng Wen's quilt. Of course, that's what worked. As expected of my incarnation, Li Siming's injuries healed rapidly. In just 4 or 5 days, the bruises faded and the scabs healed over. His recovery meant that my days of leisure had come to an end. Once again, I reverted back to being Li Siming, sleeping on that spacious bed in my bedchamber and returning Tian Shu to my side. My innate form had been roaming outside these past few days, during which I drifted for a look at Tian Shu several times. He would merely eat a couple of mouthfuls every day, read several volumes of classics and other books, then pine for Shan Shangling by a little apricot tree facing the pond, playing a few rounds of chess against himself. Ensconced in such a dull existence, it was small wonder he had fallen ill. I moved Tian Shu back to my bedchamber. He still coughed at night, and what's more, he would not make a sound. He chose instead to muffle the coughs, covering his mouth tight with his hands. Some lord could not help but feel compassion towards this choking, frail body. I helped him up and patted his back to ease him, then opened the doors to instruct the servants below to brew hot tea, which I then poured for him. With sincerity, I said, "Don't hold back if you feel like coughing. I'm not afraid of being startled from my sleep." Mu Ruoyan complicitly drank the tea and lay down. With a sigh, I joined him. My head was faintly aching when I heard those mosquito-like calls. Song Yao Yuan Jun, Song Yao Yuan Jun. Old man Mengwei, whom I had not seen for several days, was here. And in coming here, he must have new abhorrent jobs for me to undertake. And that is the end of chapter 5. It's actually a pretty good place to end it. It's kind of like starting the next part. I picked perfectly. All right. So that was a pretty good introduction. We got kind of a brief look at what is considered the heavenly realm and kind of got a good grasp on our personality of Song Yao Yuanjun, or Lisa Ming, as he's called down here. He's pretty laid back. He's kind of trying to play the villain role while also not like actually torturing the guy. So I think the guy's gonna figure it out pretty quickly. Like, I don't know. It kind of feels a bit like Comedy of Errors. I'm excited to see where this goes because this author kind of likes love triangles, it seems. So I'm intrigued to see if it's going to be a love triangle aspect. I mean, I know that they are literally going through a love trial because they fell in love with each other. But I don't know. I feel like this guy, our main guy, Lisa Ming, is going to catch feelings if he hasn't already. He seems very oblivious. And I really feel like Heng Wen kind of has a crush on Lisa Ming / Song Yao Yuanjun. But like, I think it's interesting that the point of contention here is that like you're supposed to be pure and not have relations, I guess, if you ascend. And so there's that taboo because you're supposed to be above it. I guess that's what I picked up. So I think that's a fascinating way to start off a romance book. I think it provides a very interesting dilemma for this to occur in. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what hijinks come next because old man Mengwei really loves stirring the pot and making problems, kind of for all of them. Probably has a lot of grudges, which is hilarious because you're supposed to be above it all. But yeah, I'm excited for Thursday. We will be reading chapters 6 through 8, which will be a little bit shorter than today, so it'll probably be like 2.5 hours. But yeah, it'll be our usual time, 8 Central Standard Time on Thursday. Yeah, I'm excited for it. And congratulations on the first episode, first volume, with Peach Blossom Debt. So I'm excited. Thank you for joining me tonight or watching this later. I hope you're as excited about this as I am. Good night. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. I don't think I forgot anything. See you Thursday.